across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, I've nothing to tell you apart from the fact that the government is brilliant, Keir Starmer is wonderful, and immigration is all sorted out. That's what he says, and he wants his successor, Andy Burnham, to continue his brilliant work on immigration. Really, Prime Minister? Are you honestly trying to convince us that you have immigration under control, that this is something that is solved? That is what the Prime Minister says, and says Andy Burnham needs to continue his legacy. What do you think of that? 0344 499 1000. The heat wave leaving Britain in meltdown, but why can't the nation cope? We're going to speak to a man who's on a train from Dublin to Belfast, Northern Ireland having the highest temperature that they've had ever as well, certainly in June anyway. He's been on the train for the last 2 hours, and guess what? The air conditioning is not just broken, it's pumping out hot air. Hottest day of the year, hot air being pumped out on the train in the United Kingdom. Why can't we just get a grip of this? Also, breaking news in the last few minutes, Shabana Mahmood set to sack Mike Tapp as Immigration Minister for unauthorised remarks. There is a story he has written, an opinion piece for the Times newspaper tomorrow, calling for foreign care workers to be exempt from her immigration reforms. And this is likely to ignite a fresh row over her controversial proposals to force migrants already in the UK to wait longer to apply for indefinite leave to remain, which grants the right to work, study and claim benefits in the UK permanently. So could the tap be turned off? We will see what happens with that. It's a developing story right here on Talk. We'll be on the debate desk too. We'll talk to some very interesting people about immigration policy and also about paedophilia, because one paedophile, Huw Edwards, has set up a Substack giving his views on politics. Shouldn't he just sit down, shut up and go into well-deserved obscurity? Should have been in prison in the first place. We'll talk to someone whose sons were victims of paedophiles a little bit later on in the programme. As always, there's an awful lot that I want your view on. Anything I've said there or anything we talk about, react to whatever you like. It's always great to have lots of callers, texters, tweeters and voice notes on this programme. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a voice note, you can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. Lots to discuss between now and 10. Let's get going. So, Keir Starmer talking about immigration, saying it's all marvellous, he's done a wonderful job and the whole issue is solved. The Prime Minister said this today.
In the first 2 years, this government made really important progress on immigration. And, you know, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
So the Prime Minister leaving the country in a better state than he found it 2 years ago. Do you agree with Keir Starmer's assessment of his wonderful time as Prime Minister? I think he's living in cloud cuckoo land. 0344 499 1000. Let's hear another clip from him about the orderly transition of power, almost certainly to Andy Burnham.
I am stepping down after 2 years, leaving the country in a better position than when I found it. I will do that with good grace, and I will do that making sure that there is an orderly transition, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to have foremost in my mind the sense of service and duty that has driven me as Prime Minister. I will continue to faithfully serve my country to make sure that any disruption is absolutely minimised, and that's why I'm taking steps now to ensure that that can be done in a sensible way.
What planet is he on? Seriously, it defies belief. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, and another crisis for his government as the immigration minister may be sacked. That has just broken that story, and it's in the Times now, that article by Mike Tapp that Shabana Mahmood apparently wasn't aware of, the Home Secretary. So will she sack him? Will the Prime Minister? We'll see what happens with that. It's also been a record-breaking day, another record-breaking day for the heat. So many different things are just not working. So many trains are not working or are cancelled. So many schools, over 1,000 schools where children have been sent home. Children have also been banned from paddling pools by South East Water, a hosepipe ban there. Hosepipe should not be used for watering gardens, washing cars, patios and boats, and for filling swimming and paddling pools while the country experiences record-breaking temperatures. Anglia Water has also asked 2.2 million customers across Norfolk, Suffolk and Cambridgeshire to stop using their hose pipes as well, but stop short of imposing a ban. The June heat record was broken for a third time today, reaching 36.7 at Merrifield in Somerset, and Yeovilton reached 36.6. Gosport in Hampshire was 36.1 degrees yesterday. The previous record was 35.6. So much to discuss in all of this, but why does nothing really work? We've had so many people calling in saying, you know, my train was cancelled, my kids have to be off school, or there are other major issues. Linda Jubilee is with us, the broadcaster and journalist. Linda, what do you make of this? Why can't we just deal with a bit of heat?
Well, we can't deal with the heat and we can't deal with the cold. We, in fact, can't deal with any kind of extreme weather at all. And I thought earlier this week I knew I had to get to a studio on the other side of London, and I was deliberating. Should I go on the train? Oh, no, the rails might buckle or bend. Should I go on the road? No, everyone might do the same thing. In fact, I did do the road thing, and I was on the M4 for 2 hours for a journey that normally takes me 45 minutes, which is incredibly frustrating. So I don't know why we can't get this sorted out. We seem to think that this is an unexpected incident every time it happens. And yet, when I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, and I know that Hong Kongers, experience extremely hot weather for 9 months of every year, they are very, very strategic about it. They plan it a great deal. You've got air conditioning in every department store, in every shop, in every coffee shop, every restaurant. Every house has air conditioning. Even the walkways between the shops and civic centres, they're all air conditioned too. And they've got those fountains on the pavement that you walk across, that you can stand on, where you're sprayed with water when you're very hot.
But I suppose the point would be that Hong Kong is obviously a much hotter place than here. And if this is only going to happen once or maybe twice a year, or maybe not even as much as that, should we actually have to change our entire system, our whole infrastructure, simply to cope with what is 2 or 3 days of inconvenience, perhaps?
But you know what? Hong Kong isn't that much hotter than here, but you are right; it's consistently hot, so they do account for that. But there are lots of things we can do in this country that would stop us from closing schools and closing lots of other things. I mean, the idea that you close a school simply because it's this temperature, to my mind, is utterly ridiculous.
Although Catherine Birbalsingh, who is, Britain's strictest headmistress, she's been on this channel many times, and she's someone who I think speaks an awful lot of common sense. She had said, look, it is very hot, the kids are falling asleep. She said that in an interview yesterday. There's just no point in them being here. It'd be better for them to be at home just for 2 or 3 days. So maybe that's an argument for closing schools.
Yeah, I see her point, and I'm a big fan of hers. And I think the trouble is with a lot of older schools in this country, they're built to keep heat in. They're not built for
on houses too, yeah.
Yeah. So and that's very, very true. But I don't think we should be getting over-exercised about this. I think we need to be very resilient. The fact of the matter is, I see a lot of people making fairly simple mistakes that you learn. You learn solutions when you live in a hot country. For example, pull your blinds shut at the beginning of each day and keep the windows shut. And yet I see everyone with their curtains flung open and their windows flung open. That's exactly the wrong thing to do.
Well, it's really interesting. I took the advice last night. I opened my front door, which I could keep an eye on while I was just sort of having my dinner and whatever, quite late at night, about 11 o'clock when I got home from this show. I opened all the windows, or almost all the windows in the flat, let everything go through, and then closed them all again before I went to bed, and kept some open that I could, and that really helped. I mean, my flat was definitely a bit cooler today as a result. So the advice does work, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And the other thing you should do, and I do this all year round, it's much, much harder in the winter, but I have a completely cold shower every morning. Now, that's very difficult in the winter, but in the summer, it's a really good idea. A military guy told me before they go on parade in their really big ceremonial gear, they all stand in a freezing cold shower for 3 to 4 minutes to allow their body temperature to drop. They put the uniform on and then they go out there. But we could all do that. We could all have a stone cold shower first thing in the morning and probably when we get home from work. And the other trick is to have one when you go to bed. You might think that would wake you up. It doesn't. It helps you sleep.
Very interesting. Well, Linda, thank you for all of that. And Linda Juberlee there, the broadcaster and journalist, appreciate her contribution. Joe Wheeler is a meteorologist and broadcaster, no stranger to the studio, no stranger to the debate desk. Joe, how are you coping with the heat? What's going to happen over the next few days?
Well, in actual fact, I identify with Linda there that keeping the curtains shut during the day is the #1 tip. Keep the house as cool as you can, because we don't build for warm weather. We build for cold weather and for keeping the heat in, not for letting it out. So yes, keep your rooms as dark as you can, keep them as cool as you can, and yeah, we'll survive this. Interestingly enough, we've had this red severe heat warning out now for 3 days consecutively, which has never been heard of before. But it's not just the heat, it's the humidity. And when back in 2022, we had 40.3 degrees at RAF Coningsby, we had less than 5% humidity. This time round, we've got more than 20 or 25% humidity. And that's why it feels so unpleasant. Add to that, we've had some tropical nights as well. Those are nights where temperatures don't drop below 20 degrees Celsius and the humidity stays high. And that's why everybody's finding it really hard to sleep. But the good news is change is coming. In fact, it starts tonight, and we've got some fairly dramatic storms coming up from the southwest. Been watching those, just about to hit Plymouth. And with these, we could see hail and thunder, frequent lightning, a little bit like we saw on Monday night, was it? And also some strong and gusty winds, gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour. Those are damaging winds. And along with that, sudden drop or rise in temperature. So interesting showers coming to the southwest tonight. They're going to push their way northeastwards through the course of the night. I'd like to see they bring in fresher air, but they're not. Tomorrow's going to be hot as well. The heat
will tomorrow be hotter than today, or about the same?
It could be. It could be. We're looking at a headline of 38. Now, of course, we've not made that yet, but there's time because it's still the same hot air and it's had another day to keep brewing. And we are looking at another tropical night, very hot and sticky down in the south. So there's every chance that we could see those temperatures exceeded and that June record broken for one more day.
OK, Joe, really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed. Ian is in Belfast and is on a train at the moment. And he's been, you've been coming from Dublin, but it hasn't been as cool a journey as you would like. Ian, just talk us through what's happened in the last couple of hours for you.
Hello, Peter. Good to talk to you this evening. I'm currently on the 1650 Enterprise train from Dublin, Connolly into Belfast. We're about 10 minutes away from Belfast. When we were boarding, we were informed that the air conditioning on the whole train has broken down. This is an 8-carriage train, so there's no aircon working at all on the train. Really, really hot. I would say it's currently 27 degrees outside. It's at least high 30s here in the train.
And why is it so hot in the train?
Because the air conditioning has broken down. You need to operate the journey. The staff have been brilliant, I have to say. It's the TransLink Northern Ireland Enterprise staff, so they've been handing out water to everybody.
Okay.
It's really uncomfortable.
And is the air conditioning
actually...
Are the air vents actually putting out hot air then?
Yes, coming out of the air vents is like a lukewarm air, is what I would say. And temperature inside.
So it's actually, Ian's in a situation where it's actually making the carriages warmer. And they've given you water, Ian, but are they allowing you to go outside? Are they having stops, or what are they doing? Oh no, I think we've lost Ian there. We'll maybe try and go back to him after the break. But let me know your thoughts of all of this, on all of this, and why we can't just function as a society and why these things happen. But Ian's on that train. We'll see if we can get it back on. He's been on there for about 2.5 hours, and it does sound very, very warm indeed. We'll see if we can get it back after the break. We'll also talk to our debate desk. Claire Muldoon and Ebbs Akinture are with us in just a second. Stay with us here on Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's see if we can talk to Ian on the train. Ian, have we got you back?
Hello, Peter. I'm still here on the train, yes.
Okay, so they're blasting out sort of lukewarm but not cold air, and it's presumably incredibly uncomfortable. You've been on the train now for about 2.5 hours. I've done that journey before from Dublin to Belfast. It's supposed to take 2 hours. How are you coping?
Yeah, we're all very, very hot, but at each station, so the train stops at 4 stations between Dublin and Belfast. Normally stops for 1 minute to let people on and off. They stopped for around 5 to 7 minutes at each station to allow to get a breath of air, and then we all got back on again. So it's been a bit of a disrupted journey as well, but everyone's incredibly warm. There's young children here, babies, where their mothers have had to take off as much.
Oh, we lost Ian again. He is on a moving train, so that's fine. But he's painted a very clear picture, I think, of where things are when it comes to the train journey he's on. It sounds very, very hot and uncomfortable. Thanks to Ian in Belfast for letting us know about that. I want to go to the debate desk now, and I'm delighted that Claire Muldoon is with us again. Hello, Claire. How are you doing?
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice and cool in our nice air-conditioned studio. The air conditioning is working.
It could be cooler. I feel as if I'm in a train from Dublin to Belfast.
Well, I'm very cool, and that's all that matters. And Ebbs, I can tell you,
is that all that matters?
That's all that matters.
Okay,
that's all that matters.
It's cool.
Yeah. How are you? You well?
Yes. Try not to sweat. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I managed to. I was actually asked about this on Times Radio the other night. I do a paper review with them every Tuesday night, and I was asked, what do you think of this? And I managed to shoehorn in the lyrics to It's Raining Men. When I said,
Hallelujah.
The humidity's rising, the barometer's getting low, but according to all sources, the street isn't the place to go. You should stay indoors. Why is it that the nation can't cope? We've just heard from Ian there, Ebbs, about being in a train. Staff are all doing the best they can, but hot air blasting out from those air vents. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah, because, I don't know, we love to exploit the fact that in any extreme weather condition we can't cope. So the wrong
it's not that extreme, is it? I mean, it's hotter than it has been for a while, but it's not as if it's 50 degrees.
No, and God knows none of us would be here if it was 50 degrees. But we always love to have a point of conversation about the fact that we can't cope when we have extreme weather. This is extreme to a degree, because obviously it's the hottest June day I think we've had ever.
Yes.
For 2 consecutive days or 3 consecutive days. So obviously we're not quite adept or resilient enough to cope.
I think women are more resilient than men in this because we go through something called a menopause.
Right.
So the constant sweating, the inability to have any form of internal thermometer telling us when we're hot or cold, it does make it easier. It doesn't make it any happier knowing that this is something that is generally happening now, but it's just ridiculous that we as a country cannot cope. It's ridiculous that I was reading today that some schools are closing to let the children home.
But Catherine Birbalsingh, I was saying this a minute ago actually, Catherine Birbalsingh, who is, Britain's strictest headmistress, a very common sense person, and she's not woke at all.
Yeah.
She's someone who's saying, well, actually, her school, Michaela's school, was closing because it was too hot, the kids were falling asleep in class, they weren't getting anything done, and she sent them home.
Yeah, well, I think it's very dangerous, especially doing that in London, because of the nature of where not only the Michaela school is, but a lot of schools that have pan-London admissions. A lot of kids live all over London, lots of them in high-rise buildings, which in themselves would be like pressure cookers. So you're then sending a child home to something that's not conducive at all, either to their education or their physical being. And we need to remind that. Why can't we just build memories? Why can't schools just, move the classes maybe outside to a shaded area? Take every single class at different times to do that. Read, envelop drama, do something. Get disposable or these gloves, fill them up with water, put them in the freezer, bring them out and cool people down. We can cope with
Something
this.
can be done. Although
something can be done.
There's some breaking news in that firefighters are now tackling a wildfire in Glossop. And Glossop, as far as I remember, actually, I have it down here somewhere, was one of the hottest places. No, it was Gosport. Apologies. It's Glossop, where there are wildfires, and the firefighters are dealing with that at the moment. So things have been dry for such a long time, and now it just takes a spark for those to happen.
And there was someone with a disposable barbecue that managed to burn down a whole...
That's stupidity.
Do you know, exactly, but there's a lot of stupid people out there.
But we know this, isn't it? Again,
we know
that's not
but
breaking
equally,
news.
we know it's hot.
Yes. So all of those things put together is sometimes a recipe for disaster. But in terms of us coping with the heat, we can cope with the heat. Come this time next week, temperatures...
We're not coping with it at the moment, are we, as a country?
No, not at the moment. I think we're probably going to have another heat wave in July, the rate in which we're going. But we will cope. It's only a few days.
But, but hold on, Ebbs. That would be the third heat wave this year if it happened in July. And actually, I was speaking to John Hammond, the weather forecaster, the other night. He said, look, it's not out of the realms of possibility that your theory is correct, that there may well be another heat wave. If this is becoming more regular, do we need to change the way we do things?
Yes, we do. I mean, personally, in my flat, I've got a southwest-facing balcony lined with plants. And these last couple of years have been extremely difficult to keep those plants watered because the temperatures are so hot over so many days, it's impossible to keep up. So again, you have to adapt. You've got to buy different plants, Mediterranean plants and that kind of thing. And that kind of change we all have to adapt to as well. Maybe take on a much more Mediterranean point of view and have, I don't know,
siesta?
Siestas in the middle of the day, at the peak parts of the day, and maybe stagger the times we can go into work or work from home more, all those kind of things. And we just have to adapt to the weather.
It's all right to work from home if you can work from home.
Yes, of course,
if you're one of the many people who stand on their feet and work and keep the country moving, you can't do that. The security guards in this building, for example, can't do that. Yeah, exactly. Well, indeed, if you're in a or people working in this programme, for example, including me, I can't exactly work from home.
Well, exactly. Exactly. So man up, big pants on, get on with it.
But, I mean, if there are people who are vulnerable, and, I mean, we know that children are being banned from paddling pools because of hosepipe ban and all the rest of it. I mean, do you think...
They're squeezing the life out of everything that happens.
So I have a problem
and squeezing the fun out of everything as well. It's just so wrong on so many levels. I mean, I bet you boys are both in your shorts tonight.
I am in my shorts, Claire, yes.
I couldn't possibly comment.
I mean, standards. A bit of sun, taps off, shorts on.
No, taps not off. No, definitely not. That is something that if you have the body for it, yes, fine. But most people don't. So.
Cardi P, you said you were cool.
I am cool. I'm just not going to take my top off because no one needs to see that. But yes, when we look at these kind of high temperatures as well, cutting school hours during heat waves is something the government wants to do. Thousands of classrooms shut this week. Hose sales rise despite the ban. Apparently high temperatures pose a threat to people living with lung conditions, something I didn't know. There have been critical incidents in 2 different hospitals, wildfires in Greater Manchester and Gosport. Train services suspended after rails have buckled
this is ridiculous.
As well.
We've got trains running in the Mediterranean, which is much warmer than we have it at all times.
But they deal with it all the time. So
exactly.
But but their technology and their infrastructure will be different. So again, I come back to my question: do we need to reset the whole country for something that happens every now and again?
No. We just need to come at it with a much more flexible way of thinking. When the weather is behaving like it is, and we know El Nino is in action, they're going to have more extreme temperatures this year, more than any other. That's what we know. So because we know that, we can then hopefully put into place measures where we can cope.
Like what?
I don't believe it's, like as you said, I don't believe it's worth closing schools down. I'm sure there are ways in which that, because you could put kids at
But
risk
those buildings, we're being told year after year after year that we have to insulate buildings, that they've got to keep the heat in.
Yes.
Which is fine, because we want people to be warm and we don't want people to be too cold. But then when it's too hot, it doesn't work.
Well, exactly.
Like, it works in the wrong way that we want it
you've got a Victorian school, which a lot of the primary schools are in this country, especially in this city. But again, this is such a London-centric south-east issue. In Scotland, they're not having that.
Well, in Northern Ireland, it's pretty
it's
warm,
gone up to 27 today, but I mean, it's not like what we've got.
Yeah, although I mean, it's not just London; it's the bottom half of Britain, really. It's Wales as well. It's not just South East; it's Wales as well. You know, there's a lot of the country. But as Claire rightly points out, we cannot be London-centric about these things, and we always remember all the time. It's always in my head that 82% of our viewers and listeners to Talk live outside of London, and like many other stations, we try not to be too London-focused. Wherever you are in the country, whatever you think, wherever you are, and whatever is going on with you and the weather. If you want to comment on this or anything else, give me a shout, 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk about Keir Starmer and how brilliantly he's done on immigration in just a second. Stay with us. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. So Keir Starmer has been asked what his thoughts are on his achievements, and I mean, this is just an astonishing clip that an answer to a question that he gave today. Let's find out what the Prime Minister thinks about his great achievement, he thinks, on immigration.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, you know, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
Everything's absolutely fine. Claire?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. Wonder why he lost confidence from the electorate, i.e. us,
well, this is it.
His own cabinet.
Well, this is what Kemi Badenoch said yesterday. If everything's so fine and dandy and marvellous,
why are you leaving?
Are there, as she put it, 400 daggers in his back or 400 knives in his back?
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to immigration, do you agree with him that things have got better?
Well, I'm just looking at graphs because I love a graph. I love a visual here. And, yeah, they're down from 2022 levels at that time. And it would indicate that, yes, as we know, we've discussed it on your show, Peter, that year on year the amounts have gone down, but there was 22,500 being brought in by boat. We still don't seem to be able to get the measure of that. I think perhaps although he would say the data is such that we have less people coming into the country, whether they be through uncharted waters or even uncharted people themselves. It's very difficult to put a number on that. I do think Shabana Mahmood was one of the best appointments he made. And that 660, is it billion? Please help me out. Is it billion or million that they're paying the French?
Yes.
I think that might start to kick in now. But without any due diligence on ratifying who can come in and where they're staying and everything else. And I think the other issue is putting them all into, as Burnham's pointed out, and I mean, I don't mean to other people, but asylum seekers or refugees coming over in boats, to house them in economically deprived areas is wholly, wholly wrong, because all that will do is just put people against people. People are already burgeoning under huge amounts of poverty, complete lack of appreciation of health, of outcomes or education or anything in these really poverty-stricken areas, often in the north, even in Scotland. And I think that's a difficulty. And I think the difficulty is actually in the figures, because no one actually knows what those figures definitively are, and I think that is a huge problem.
The figures we do have say that net migration is at its lowest level since the COVID lockdowns. Nearly 40% fall in channel crossings and 30% fall in the number of migrants housed in asylum hotels. He has said that's evidence of a success. A number of experts, including from the Oxford Migration Observatory, are saying, well, actually, this is down to what Rishi Sunak did to try to deal with the Boris wave. What do you think, Ebbs?
No, I think you can adjust those figures and skew them in a way in which they'll suit your point of view. So you will be able to go, OK, so migration is down, and that's fantastic, and it's because of us. But it might actually, you said, might be a legacy from what Rishi Sunak did before. There is no real way of judging. But I'm not so much concerned about that. I'm more concerned with how Keir Starmer is telling Andy Burnham to not lose control of migration, because I think Keir doesn't really have a lot to boast at this point, so leave Andy Burnham to it. It's almost like we're going to have a fresh, clean slate with Andy Burnham. He's going to pick up the slack from what's happened before, but I don't think he needs advice from Keir Starmer. I think Andy Burnham will be fine doing what he needs to do going forward.
I wonder why he chose migration to come out and speak to Burnham about. I really did.
But that's just a key.
Why do you think, Ebbs, that Andy Burnham will be fine? Why do you have confidence in him being fine without Keir Starmer's advice? But I mean, are you saying he'll be fine without Keir Starmer's advice? Or are you saying he'll be a good Prime Minister?
No, I'm saying he'll be fine without Keir Starmer's advice.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't want Keir Starmer advising me on anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust Keir Starmer to give me directions to the gents.
I just don't think there is enough. Keir Starmer hasn't done enough to be that point of reasoning and an advice giver. He's just not. So leave Andy Burnham to it. There's just no need for it, I don't think. He's not in a position to direct anyone following him.
Yes. Do you think a period of silence in Keir Starmer's
and reflection,
might be a good idea, Claire?
Absolutely. I think we've heard enough of him over the past 23 months.
One thing that a lot of people are hearing and may not be heard for much longer in Denmark is the Islamic call to prayer. This is an interesting one. Denmark planning to ban the Islamic call to prayer, with the country's immigration minister claiming parts of the nation risk sounding like a suburb of Islamabad. I wonder what you think about this. Do you think that the call to prayer should be banned in Denmark or indeed elsewhere, here in the UK, for example? 0344 499 1000. Morten Bodskov said the government would reopen an investigation into whether the Muslim call to prayer can be outlawed nationwide, arguing that what he described as creeping Islamisation was taking up too much public space. The call to prayer should not be heard over Danish rooftops, the Social Democrat minister told the Danish press. It has no place in Denmark, and you shouldn't be in any doubt whether you've ended up in a suburb of Islamabad when you walk around Denmark. Now, the Adhan, which is the Islamic call to prayer, traditionally broadcast 5 times a day to summon worshippers to mosque, often through loudspeakers mounted on minarets. And the proposal is the 3rd attempt by the Danish immigration minister to establish a legal framework. Claire, your thoughts on this? Because the call to prayer is, of course, heard in many countries. It is heard in the UK in some parts of the country as well. What do you think?
I think Denmark are, playing a really good luck to them, and I hope they do ban it. If you are in places like Turkey, you go to countries like Turkey or other predominantly Muslim countries, fine. You expect to hear it. You expect to see the beautiful blue mosque in Istanbul, and with the minarets all around them. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, beautiful centre of religion for Muslims. If you go to Mecca, if you go wherever, that's absolutely fine, but I do not want it in a secular society. I do not want it to be able to hear it in Great Britain, which is traditionally a Christian country, because it is a form of domination, and that's what I don't like. It's not like church bells. Okay. It's not, you know, every hour on the hour. You certainly don't have church bells when Roman Catholics priests have when we believe the body and blood of Christ change into the body and blood, and the bell is rung. That's not heard outside. Okay, these are very important religious aspects of our faith.
But for example,
in this country.
In the village where my parents live in Northern Ireland, the church bells ring, you know, calling people to church.
Yes.
For example, on a Sunday morning. But you're happy with that because the UK is a Christian country.
Yes, but it's not every single day, Peter. They wouldn't ring every single day. And then it's often quite nice to hear the bell ringers practice on a Monday evening, say.
Yes, how come that's nice? No, how come that's all right and that's acceptable?
Because we're a Christian country and there's no sign of dominance over any other faith.
You know,
that's why.
You say we're a Christian country, but actually, we are in all but name. I don't think if you go out in the streets, a lot of people
by the dilution of people wanting, for instance, the Muslim call to prayer, by other people saying, oh, it's actually okay because you're diminishing the role of Christianity in the country and you're disallowing the call to faith, the absolute faith of a village church, say. That somehow we're not supposed to have that anymore. Is that what you're saying?
But if there's a certain area that has a slightly higher Muslim population and a concentration of Muslim people, and they happen to have a mosque there, I wouldn't find that particularly I don't know, humiliating or overbearing.
We certainly wouldn't. I would hope you wouldn't find it humiliating after the comments that you'd make, because that doesn't add up. What I would say is there are calls to prayer in this country already, but what I don't want, and if you go back to modern studies from years ago, they will say that melting pots, i.e. a condensed amount of
highly populated
area of people of different cultures, it doesn't work, because what that will then do is feed out. We have seen this in this country already with the amount of Islamisation that Nick Timothy was one of the only MPs to come out and say he didn't like what Sadiq Khan had done to enable Muslim men to kneel and pray in Trafalgar Square. There's this dominance. This is what this is a complete dominance of a religion over others, and to try and mask everything else under equality, and that's a really dangerous road to go down.
It says here there's only 270,000 Muslims living in Denmark, which has a population of roughly 6 million people.
Same as Scotland.
Yeah, so that's a tiny proportion of Muslim people compared to the bigger 6 million population. So it's only...
What's your point?
My point is, I can't imagine that the call to prayer is over-dominating most of Denmark.
But if you live...
It might be in certain areas.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I don't want there to be Christian areas, Muslim areas, Jewish areas, whatever. I want anybody to be able to live wherever they want to live. So if you have this, Claire thinks it's domination over a particular area, if it's coming from 5 times a day, if it's coming from a mosque, there'll be many Muslim people who it's not relevant to, or there'll be many non-Muslim people who it's not relevant to, who may not want to hear that.
No, but again, as you can say the same with church bells. I know...
But we are a Christian... I mean, we are a Christian country.
Denmark's completely secular.
Yeah.
Denmark doesn't have any formal religion.
OK, I just think it's a bit hardline to outline... to outlaw a small part of the community that is Muslim. So
you're not outlawing the community being Muslim. You're not saying they can't go to mosque.
No, of course
You're saying don't have a broadcast noise to everyone, especially the many people to whom it will not be relevant.
We do have a call to prayer in this country through the mosques, but it's not as prevalent as what would be happening in Denmark, because they want a total ban, and we have, and it works. Because I can't hear any call to prayer.
Nat's been in touch from Tel Aviv. She says, I'm all for banning the Islamic call to prayer. Penny in Essex says, good evening, Peter. Good evening, Penny. Yes, the call to prayer should be banned in any country which is not Islamic. I'm sorry, but our country is becoming more and more Islamic, and we are being dominated 5 times a day is too much. Once on a Sunday, our Christian country in the UK, our country is no problem. You think it's too far, though, Ebbs?
I just think we've got to be careful not to kind of just delete certain people's beliefs in certain areas.
But that's
maybe what we should be more aware of is how much of an area is being dominated by anything that isn't the predominating factor.
They don't need a call to prayer. Muslims do not need a call to prayer 5 times a day. They don't need that prayer. They don't need that sound.
OK, what do you think of what Claire and Ebbs are saying? Whose side of the debate are you on? 0344 499 1000. Plenty on the weather as well. Griff from Pontefract in West Yorkshire says, I'm loving this weather. Currently at work cleaning and servicing bakery ovens. It's a mere 47.5 degrees in this bakery. Nearly done. And then it's time for home and an hour of 16-degree air conditioning in the van. Can't wait. Great show. Griff, I'm delighted we're getting you through your task there. My goodness. Mike in Lincoln says, I hear everyone moaning that we as a country cannot cope with the weather extremes, and it's not hard to work out why things like aircon on trains fails in hot spells as economics and business practices. How often do we have this type of weather? Enough that train operators would self-impose extra costs on themselves, maintaining things like aircon every few months. If one breaks during a hot spell, they get it repaired, as it's far more cost effective for them maintaining things. Similarly, snow clearance at airport when it snows. How often does it happen that they need to clear runways? Why would an airport spend the money to fully equip and maintain the equipment for once in a while occurrence? I'm not saying they're right, but with fiduciary duties to shareholders, it makes financial sense, says Mike in Lincoln. Annie in Glasgow says, I think the Greeks would say that Keir Starmer is suffering from pseudologica fantastica, says Andy in Glasgow. On Keir Starmer as well, Nat says, you shouldn't trust Starmer with directions to the gents, as you'd probably end up at the ladies. Stay with us here on Talk, and let me know your view, especially on what Claire and Ebbs are saying. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Clive in Solihull has been in touch. He says he's a reform voter. He says, great show as always, Peter. Thank you, Clive. Much appreciated. Keir Starmer is a liar. He lied in his victory speech and he lied in his resignation speech. He couldn't lie straight in bed. He must think we're all stupid. If we are so great, why did he resign? Because he is the worst Prime Minister of all time. That is why. Alison says, have a fish pond, then you're exempt from a hosepipe ban. Blue badge holders are also exempt. Melanie wants to talk about the hot weather. She says, if July is classed as the hottest month and we are having heat waves towards the end of June, would it not be possible to alter the school year so it finishes towards the end of June and the new academic year is in August? Exams are always in high pollen months and in warm weather. Why not let the school children be off when days are longer in July and go back to school as days start to become shorter? Well, actually in Ireland and Scotland and Northern Ireland, they're off all of July and all of August. And I think in Ireland it's most of June as well.
Well, Scotland finishes this year on the 30th of June.
Yes, it's the same in Northern Ireland. But in Ireland, the 26 counties, I think it's even longer, if I remember correctly. It's even longer. It's well back sort of into June.
Has it always
as
been
well?
that way?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I grew up, my exams were always on my birthday, which was the 1st of June. And
he loves to tell everybody that's when his birthday is. Every single year, that's Peter's birthday. It doesn't change.
And some people, when invited, turn up to birthday parties. Anyway, I'm only joking. I'm only joking, Claire. Joanna in Salisbury says, hi Cardi Fee, I'll have whatever Starmer is on. He's living in an alternative world, or perhaps he has persuaded himself he's wonderful. Steve says, I agree, far too much leniency to foreign cultures has been allowed. People choose to come to Europe. Don't force your culture upon us. This has been the biggest problem when it comes to integration. And Chris has a question for Ebbs. He says, Ebbs is saying that if every town has a small Muslim community, every single person in that town should have a call to prayer 5 times a day. Do you really think that? I'm not sure that's quite what you said, Ebbs.
No,
but Chris in Newbury would like you to develop your opinion a little bit on that a little bit more.
All I was saying is if you do have a high concentration of Islamic people in a certain area and that area has kind of become a bit Islamic in its feel. I think about the area around Finsbury Park or...
What I worry about, Ebbs, is when... And we've seen this where people saying, you can't do that, this is an Islamic area. A woman can't wear a low-cut top because it's an Islamic area. It's like, well, no, it's not. We don't have Islamic areas in Christian areas.
We don't have Sharia law.
And we don't have Sharia law. Exactly. I mean, if people should be able to wear whatever they want all the time in whatever area they're in, as long as it's sort of vaguely appropriate.
It would be interesting to find out, in those areas in Denmark, where there's the call to prayer, how many people from Denmark actually find it offensive.
Well, certainly it's a live debate anyway. And one more before we move on to another topic. Caroline in Bexley, great place, great part of southeast London, coming into Kent. You used to have an excellent MP there. She says a Muslim scholar was on Julia's show this morning. He was explaining that the Quran does not mention calls to prayer, along with the dress code that Muslim women should wear. It's the extremist version of Islam, and most law-abiding Muslims did not want this type of Islam in the country. They're here to get away from it, he said, and went on to say that type of extremist views become the norm here. He will move. Lovely guy. I just wished he'd caught his name. I'm not quite sure what his name was. Maybe we can check actually on the recaps what that guy's name was. But Caroline in Bexley says she enjoyed listening to that guest on Julia's programme this morning. We'll get that name for you, Caroline, and I'll tell you as soon as I know it. Claire, you have a thought on that? On what Caroline was saying there?
Well, yes. I mean, I would love to know who the chap was that was on Julia's show this morning as well. I might listen to that back and watch it back. And it's very refreshing to hear a scholar from who is a Muslim from Islam as a religion saying that this is not the requirements, which is what I said as well. They do not need the 5 times to prayer call from the mosques.
We're actually going to speak to Fayez Mughal about this a little bit later on. He's got some great views on all of it, so loads to discuss with that, so stay tuned. That's a little bit later on in the programme. Quite a number of other big stories around, including Huw Edwards, the disgraced BBC News reader who was convicted on paedophilia charges. He has launched a Substack and wants to give his political analysis. Will you be reading it, Claire?
I will not, and I do subscribe to Substack because there's a lot of great independent journalism going on there, and London Calling as well, which is part of Substack. And I think for him to take something like that can monetise his name, that can monetise his words, that can monetise his thoughts and his views on what happened, because as we know, that's a known quantity. He's told us that there's 2 sides to everything, and he will be extrapolating on those.
I'm about to say the words in fairness to Huw Edwards, which I don't ever want to say, but just factually, he's not going to charge people for what he
not?
has. No, well, he says he isn't.
But you can't be a part of Substack without.
You can publish things. You can publish things
Can
without.
you?
Yeah, you can. He has done this today.
Right.
I did read it for the purposes of research, but I mean, I don't care what Huw Edwards thinks about anything, and I don't want to hear from him ever again. I want him to sit down, shut up, and stop trying to rehabilitate himself, because he accessed child pornographic images. He was convicted of that. He should have gone to prison and didn't. And in my view, and here we are. He's trying to re-enter society.
My only thing that I don't agree with you that you just said is that by all means he can rehabilitate himself.
Can he?
If he wants to.
How?
My point is, he just needs to do it quietly.
Yes.
We don't need to know about it.
Yes.
In an age where we need to know everything about everything, we just don't need to know about it. You can just...
But I think, do you not think it's the measure of the man, the Webbs, that he has been through this, he has put his victims through this, he has been found guilty of these heinous crimes against children, these horrific sexual acts on picture that he possessed, and yet he has got the gall almost, to come out and say, I'm giving, after the wonderful Channel 4 with Martin Clunes playing him, after saying all of that, after seeing it, I don't think there's any two sides to the story.
Are there perhaps parallels with... I mean, Philip Schofield wasn't a paedophile, but he was in contact with the young man he was in a relationship with before he was of age. Then he went on This Morning to talk about, oh, isn't it all, dreadful, and I've, come out as a gay man and all the rest of it. This kind of public confessional thing, or re-entering society in some way when you've done something like this. I mean, I think of something which now would be a bit of a deal, but not nearly as big a deal, the Profumo affair. So Jack Profumo, who was the Minister for War, he went and worked in homeless shelters and soup kitchens.
Fed the poor.
He fed the poor. He got on with it. He didn't ask for interviews. He didn't ask for, he atoned. He certainly atoned.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really interesting you say that, Ebbs, and I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah.
There are ways that people can be rehabilitated.
Yes.
There are ways that people can certainly try to re-enter society in some way, but it doesn't have to be public. It doesn't have to be, look at me, I know all about politics.
And of course, if he wants to rehabilitate himself, that is entirely down to him. But this now becomes a solo activity that has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in terms of my own boundaries, I don't want to know.
Yeah, but you've got the choice not to read it. You've got the choice not to access Substack.
And I won't be.
But the fact, I think, that we're discussing is, should he be doing it? Is this something that he should be doing?
Well, it shows his mentality, doesn't it? It shows his attitude.
It does.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely ego-driven.
But we have a choice to read it or to not.
Exactly.
And people will vote with their eyes and not read it. And that's fine.
Apparently it's got 2 likes so far, so there we are. Caroline, we've looked it up. Thank you to the top team behind the glass for doing that. And it's Dr. Taj Hargi, who is director of the Oxford Institute for British Islam and Imam of the Oxford Islamic Congregation. What I'm going to do in the break, in about 5 minutes' time, Caroline, is on my... I've very kindly been sent it by someone who's listening at the moment, the little clip from Julia's programme. I'm going to retweet that on my own Twitter at Peter Cardwell, and I will WhatsApp it to you, Claire, as well, so you can have a wee look at it as well. But thank you, Caroline, for that. And I'm pretty sure on this topic, certainly you're going to hear what our guest a little bit later on says. That's Fayaz Mughal, who has some thoughts on it as well. Just before we end the debate desk, Claire and Ebbs, I wonder if you could tell us a bit about Labour encouraging farmers to swap beef for lentils. Claire,
Don't even.
Can you? I mean, as someone who has been, maybe I can slightly atone. Speaking of atoning, I can atone for my. The eyebrows are going for the birthday party comment. Having experienced your delicious cooking.
Yes, thank you.
Which was chicken.
And wonderful hospitality.
And wonderful hospitality. I was about to complete the sentence and say wonderful hospitality, general brilliance, intelligence, fabulous general mise-en-scène, all the rest of it.
Guest, but anyway.
Can I honestly say, if I ever write it, I don't think anybody would ever be interested in a memoir of mine, but if I write something, I have to devote at least a page or two to the time I went for Sunday lunch at Claire Muldoon's house with Tim Montgomery. It was like some sort of comedy. It was crazy. The time he said he asked if he could if there was a way to set fire to your dress was up there. Anyway, Labour is poised to encourage farmers to give up beef production and plant lentils to help combat climate change. Ebs, what do you think?
Oh, this is just another hotspot's ridiculous idea that someone's dreamt up and kind of thought, oh well, let's take this and run with it. I mean, did anyone look into or ask farmers about the viability of swapping lentils for beef? I mean, no. Let's just cancel this.
Is it just another way of the government not really understanding the country, Claire?
Of course it is. I mean, the farmers have been crippled with inheritance tax. They've been crippled by the inability for, us to farm, and the profits are squeezed so much by supermarkets in this country because of the cost of food crisis, because of the cost of food. They don't seem to be valued in any way, shape or form. And now this. I mean, I can think of more hot air coming out of someone after they've eaten lentils than any of the cows actually emit.
It certainly won't help those carbon emissions. The thing is, though, meat takes a lot of energy, a lot of water to actually produce, Ebs.
Yeah.
So if you're growing lentils, maybe that's one way of helping the planet to some degree.
It's upside down thinking. We need to get actual experts to give their own overview as to what's going to work. Me, who's not a farmer, Claire, who's not a farmer, yourself, who's not a farmer.
I'm from farming. Don't misidentify me. Don't misfarmer me. I'm from a farming background, actually. I know I had quite a lot of farmers in my family.
Okay, so your farming experience, do you think this is a good idea?
No, it's a terrible idea. I was just playing devil's advocate there. Listen, thank you both very, very much indeed. Claire Muldoon and Ebs Akintade, political commentators, both appreciate them joining us on the debate desk. What do you think of everything they've talked about this evening? 0344 499 1000. Penny says paedophiles cannot be rehabilitated. They like children and only children. They cannot change themselves. They don't want to. Richie says Huw Edwards is an absolute disgrace. How the hell can he be given any sort of reintroduction to society? And Reg from Southampton says, hi Cardi P, regarding the call to prayer, which is becoming more like a call to arms, all Muslims know when it's time to pray and do not need to be reminded with loudspeakers blasting out their imams' wailings. It's a sign of dominance and is done to intimidate. The same applies to public prayers attended by thousands. So lots in all of that, and thank you to everybody who has been in touch. Joanna as well in Salisbury says, how is it with all this technology they can't have a call to prayer alarm on their phones? Interesting point there as well. I'd love to hear from some Muslims if you are someone who actually answers that call to prayer and goes to a mosque. If you want to put your point across, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from people on all sorts of topics, from all sorts of backgrounds, wherever you are in the country or indeed abroad. We know of a big international listenership and viewership as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. We're going to talk in just a second about Huw Edwards to someone whose own children were victims of paedophiles. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. This is the Evening Exchange. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. There's so much to talk about this evening. The Prime Minister thinks he's done a good job on immigration. Do you agree with him? Let me know your thoughts. He is certainly very pleased with himself and wants to give lots of advice to Andy Burnham on how to deal with the immigration problem. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Huw Edwards, the disgraced BBC newsreader turned paedophile, has now a Substack. He's giving us his views on politics. Maybe we should invite him in this programme. That will not be happening, let me tell you. We don't have scumbags like that on our programme. Instead, we have people who fought against people like him, brilliant people with a fine upstanding record, like our next guest, Marilyn Hawes, who's the Chief Executive of Freedom from Abuse. We'll talk as well about a number of other issues that are in the news this evening. We'll talk about the Emiratis who have been onto Golders Green after the anti-Semitic attacks. We'll talk about Venezuela as well. We'll be live there. 188 people are confirmed dead after that dreadful series of earthquakes. More than 1,500 injured and 40,000 missing. Lots as well. Many people want to express their view on Denmark's idea to ban the Islamic call to prayer. What do you think about that in this country? 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell, send me a voice note, send me a WhatsApp text message, or you can ring me as well on the main number 0344 499 1000. So much to talk about between now and 10 o'clock. Stay with us here on Talk. Gareth in Doncaster says the call to prayer was done by a human. It's now done by loudspeaker. Why can't they use a WhatsApp group and then the folks that want to hear it get it? Another person says Ebbs is living in a fantasy world. Can you imagine Turkey allowing Catholics to be called upon to prayer? You would be on the next plane out. If you get being called to prayer to pray is so important, go to countries that operate this Muslim culture, says Thomas in Coventry. Regarding the Islamic call to prayer, says Gareth, I wonder how Muslims would feel if 5 passages from the Bible were broadcast publicly every day in the same way. Would that be considered acceptable? If not, why should one form of public religious broadcasting be treated any differently from another? Peter says, hi Peter, how many churches do we have in this Christian country? How many church bells do you hear? That's because we respect Christian beliefs and other beliefs. If you have Muslim call to prayer, that's domination of the Christian belief in this country. Why don't the Muslim believers respect our wishes in our country? Is this two-tier religion? And Mike in Lincoln says, just a point on what Ebbs said earlier on. Ebbs, it was on our debate desk there with Claire Muldoon just a minute ago. If I go to an Islamic country and hear a call to prayer 5 times a day, I don't worry or complain about it. One thing I'd never hear in any Muslim majority country is any other kind of religion such as church bells, because it's not allowed. We are a country that is predominantly Christian with a culture founded on those values. Islam has a different culture, one that teaches us a philosophy of dawah or missionary practice, and there are fatwas that instruct Muslims to conduct jihad to spread the word. The biggest problem in this country is we've allowed the Muslim population to congregate in siloed communities where they now think they can run said areas as if they're governed by Islamic law and patrol them, such as inflicting their beliefs on non-Muslims. Perhaps it's time to start some restrictions and set some boundaries, says Mike in Lincoln. Mike, really interesting you say that. I don't know if you remember, there was a very, very brave policewoman from the Metropolitan Police who was talking about a row that emerged between the different protesters, and there were some Muslim people there who were saying, he can't say that, this is a Muslim area. And the police officer said, there aren't Muslim areas. He can say whatever he wants within the law. There aren't Muslim areas, there aren't Christian areas, there aren't Jewish areas. There are places where predominantly lots of people of some religion live. I get that. But you cannot impose your values, you cannot impose your rules on a particular area that is public. It's different in houses of worship, it's different in people's homes and so on. But we need to be really, really careful about this, because if there are areas where there are different rules, then there are no-go areas and all the rest of it. There are so many different issues here. Lots of people getting in touch as well about Huw Edwards. We're going to talk about that now. One person says, surely Substack could just block Huw Edwards from using their platform. Or are they happy to welcome with open arms people who abuse children? Vile man, please go away and don't return. on Substack as a company, actually, I wonder if they've said anything today. I don't think I've seen anything about that. I can maybe ask the top team behind the glass if they could just have a little search and see, because we do, of course, want to give a right of reply if Substack as a company, as an organisation, have a view when it comes to Huw Edwards posting on their site. James says there's no such thing as child pornography. What is called as images of child sexual abuse. Those who view and share the sickening material are without humanity and deserve the most degrading and inhumane treatment, in James's view. Dawn says, when I worked in social housing, we were under great pressure to house paedophiles released from prison. The public would be surprised how many live in the community. Well, let's speak to Marilyn Halls now. She is the Chief Executive of Freedom from Abuse. Marilyn, Huw Edwards is posting on Substack. He's writing about politics. He's not writing yet, anyway, about his experience in prison, why he was arrested, and the paedophilia that he was involved with. What do you make of this, Marilyn?
Well, I really do agree with the last caller that went in and said about Substack. If Substack had any conscience or any professionality, they would ban him, because I absolutely agree with that person. I couldn't catch their name. I'd actually quite like to be on with you till 10 o'clock tonight, because, oh my word, I'm very grumpy because I'm very hot. But as for Huw Edwards, I'm going to now download because I'm grumpy and I'm fed up with this.
Well, we've invited you on the programme to get your view, so you
here it comes.
Download away, Marilyn.
Right, here it goes, all right? So he is a grubby little toad. That's what I said to him when he first came. He is a narcissistic, arrogant little weasel. He has got no remorse. He is using and has used his mental health and his upbringing. I know so many people that have had dreadful upbringings and mental health, autism, whatever. They do not go around doing the despicable, disgusting stuff that he did. He should have gone to prison, and no doubt he should have done. I'm going to say this, but the magistrate that let him off, I'm going to say this, was a Freemason, and that's another subject to be had.
Okay, I don't know.
I knew you were going to say that.
Okay. I don't know if that's true, and we need to be really careful what we say.
You can check it out. You can check it out.
Let's move to the next part of your opinion, because I don't want to go around libeling people. Let's move to the next part of your opinion. I'm sure, just to keep us both on the right side of the law, Marilyn, all I would say is I'm sure the magistrate involved would deny that there was any undue influence in any regard. Next part of your opinion, Marilyn, go ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay, so he has absolutely no empathy. He has no remorse. If he had any remorse, any empathy whatsoever, he would now disappear down a dark hole and do something else, because these people like him don't change. He's narcissistic. It's not his fault. You know, that's what he thinks. He thinks it's not his fault. And he's trying to get his voice out there. He could have had his voice in court. He could have said what he wanted to say. No point saying afterwards, I want to be able to say that, you know, what I want to say. No, you had your time in court and you didn't use that. He said he was guilty, because the subject here is, if you say you are guilty, you do not get cross-examined. You immediately get a sentence. So he would have done that to hide his grubby behaviour. I've seen it time and time again. I've gone.
He also knows he would get a shorter sentence if he pled guilty as well.
Absolutely right. So what I would like to say to him, you know, you never repaid the £200,000 that you owed the BBC. You know, just go away. Go down a dark hole where grubby little toads live. And you know what?
Is there anything, Marilyn? I know you've various victims of paedophiles that you've spoken to, that you've dealt with, that you've seen the results very, very closely. I just wonder, is there anything a paedophile who's been released from prison can do to atone in any way? Is there any activity, volunteering or charity work or whatever, that they can take part in that you would approve of?
I personally wouldn't trust them. Because he's not. I mean, if somebody is in their early teens, teenage years, early 20s, their brain is still malleable. You can actually do something with a young brain. You can retrain it. But not Huw Edwards. He's ingrained in this, and he's used excuses, as they always do. And you know what? There's a thing called karma. I believe in karma. If he wants to go down that road, he's going to come back and bite him in the arse, as it should do, because he's never really apologised. He's not sorry. He's only sorry for himself.
Yes.
I've got no time for him at all. You know, if he had such a mental health problem, and if he had all this, how come he delivered the commentary so well at the Queen's funeral? Sorry, I don't buy it. He's just doing what they all do. They make excuses. They try and squirm out of it. He ain't going to change. He won't change.
It's interesting. It's interesting. One texter says, would Substack be happy with having someone like Amara Hindley or Ian Huntley chatting away on their platform? They need to be accountable for their platform and users.
100%.
Well,
100%.
just before you continue, Marilyn, just to say, the top team behind the glass are checking. We can't see anything Substack have said about this on the record. We're asking their press office about this, whether they are happy that a paedophile is writing on their platform.
Well done you, because if they're happy with that, then nobody should use it. I absolutely would put it all over social media myself, because you cannot condone what this man is doing and give them any sort of airspace whatsoever, whatever the platform is. He needs to disappear. He is a vile little toad, and I mean, I'm on the side of the victims, and
Absolutely.
you could say he will try and say that he's a victim himself because he's got, I don't buy into mental health. I mean, there's loads of people that have had dreadful health. Look at the people, look at the women that were so badly abused by the rape gangs. They haven't gone out and become female paedophiles. It's nonsense. He's using it as an excuse, as they all do. I've met plenty in prison, and they have never seen them. The only tears you get are for themselves. I've seen it time and time again. And I'm sorry, but, he can go and do one.
Thank you very much indeed, Marilyn Hawes there. No doubt about what you think about this. What do you think about what Marilyn has said? 0344 499 1000. Marilyn is the Chief Executive of Freedom from Abuse, and there's plenty to think about on all of that. There are lots of people getting in touch about all sorts of different issues as well. Chris says 90% of the water a cow drinks is green water, the water in the grass in the field from this marvellous thing called rain. The beef takes a lot of water line and propaganda from the Green Lobby. As usual, it's nonsense. Fran in West Sussex says, regarding school closures, so the primary school where my two boys attend closed at 1:15 today and will do tomorrow. We had to walk to pick them up, the hottest part of the day. It doesn't make sense. On Wednesday we were given the option of picking up early. I didn't, and my boys said teachers used their book trays at foot baths and did colouring. They seemed to have a lovely time. At least they were not on screens. Margaret says, it does seem a bit strange that the call to prayer has been allowed to be established, but silent Christian prayer could get you arrested, says Margaret. Well, it's a wee bit more complicated than that, Margaret, because if you simply pray in public, you're not going to get arrested. There's no reason why you'd be arrested for that. I think you're talking about exclusionary zones around abortion clinics, which certainly there was an arrest there previously. On Huw Edwards, Ian in Bridgend has been in touch on 0344 499 1000. Ian, you're very welcome to the programme. What did you make of what Marilyn was saying there?
Yes, I agree entirely, Peter. I just wanted to mention with the two-tier nature of it. You remember the case of Alex Belfield. He was sent down for 5 years. He came out on licence. He went back on YouTube, wrote a book. Next thing, bang, he's back in clink. Huw Edwards, he's got off scot-free every stage of the way.
I don't remember that particular case, I must say, but Ian, when it comes to Huw Edwards, do you think he should be giving us his political views?
No, he's the last person in the world to give any sort of views, I think, but it's a reflection of his inflated ego and his belief as he's part of the cracker, the elite society of Wales.
Well, do you know what, Ian? I really feel awful about this, but I invited Huw Edwards to give, way before anybody, his conviction for paedophilia or anything, or the Sun or whatever. I was involved with a media organisation for students and invited him to give a talk. He gave a pretty good talk, but I just thought, as soon as I heard these allegations, I thought, my goodness, that is horrendous. I mean, just the arrogance of someone who would do that, and I just, it really made me sick to my stomach when I thought of the actions that he had taken part in.
Exactly, and the way he's allowed to perpetuate that now, isn't it? It's disgusting. He should never be given a
And people are taking in. We think of Jeffrey Donaldson as well in Northern Ireland. I mean, he was a very... I knew him as well. I mean, I interviewed him many times as a journalist, and he was, now a convicted paedophile. He'll be sentenced in September, and we know that these people take people in. They're confidence tricksters and can't be trusted.
I know it's crazy, isn't it? You know, the power goes to the head, and I suppose that's the ultimate form of power.
Well, and it is, and paedophilia is about power. Any sexual crime, rape of an adult as well is about power, specifically and primarily. I think we can agree. Listen, thank you, Ian. Really appreciate your views on that. That's Ian in Bridgend. If you'd like to join Ian on the air, please do give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. We'll take some more calls in just a minute, and please do keep your messages coming through on text as well, 87222 with the word talk in your text. Plenty to discuss this evening between now and 10. Stay with us here on Talk.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, thank you very much to everyone who's been in touch. Just looking through some tweets here. Someone says Starmer is a gaslighting. Well, I'm not going to read out that word on air, but certainly there's a number of people not too happy with Keir Starmer on immigration. Let's just see that clip again. It is an astonishing thing that Keir Starmer thinks that his work on immigration should be something that we laud and say, well done, Prime Minister. Let's have a look at what the Prime Minister said today.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it, and I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number, so huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the Channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well, so the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
Lots on the Islamic call to prayer as well. Let me know what you think about that, or indeed the views of the Prime Minister on immigration. 0344 499 1000. On the call to prayer, Ken has been in touch from South Devon. Ken, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Yeah, what I'd like to say is, if I was to blast out music at 5 times a day, from sunrise to sunset, I would have the police around here causing
a public nuisance.
Yeah, it's a public nuisance and it's breaching the peace.
If enough people in an area want it to happen, should it happen?
No, because we are still an English country.
And do you feel that there is room for church bells, for example? If you hear church bells, does that in any way annoy you or think that shouldn't happen?
Right. How often do you hear church bells?
I mean, not that often. I must say I hear them in the village where my parents live every Sunday morning because they do peal them. But that's a different thing. Playing loud music publicly can actually breach several civil and criminal laws, primarily related to environmental health and antisocial behaviour. Apparently, Ken, I didn't know that. Have you ever heard a call to prayer from a mosque?
No. Lucky enough, I live in Teignmouth in South Devon, so. We're pretty Christian down there. I mean, I'm actually, I've got no faith at all. I'm agnostic, but hearing church bells don't affect me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do hear church bells. We got a couple of C of E churches around by me.
Mm-hmm.
They go off at 10:30 or from 10 o'clock till 10:30 on a Sunday, and I'm fine with it.
But if you're fine with that, why would you not be fine if it was an Islamic call to prayer? What's the difference, really?
Well, basically because we're a so-called Christian country.
Okay, yeah. Listen, thanks for that, Ken. Lots to chew over on that. Really appreciate it. Mary's been in touch from County Down with the.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you. Mary's been in touch from County Down with a message here. She says, I recently attended a meeting with Muslim community leaders, a sort of dialogue session along with non-Muslims. The main Muslim spokesman made the point quite robustly that in his experience, most Muslims don't want to be integrated into UK society, but rather to be accepted as a valued part of the community with their own distinct culture and religious practices. He stressed that they shouldn't be seen as a problem group who need to be made to integrate so their distinct culture can be watered down so that non-Muslims feel less uneasy. He says Muslims want to belong in the UK but believes there's very little understanding or acceptance of Muslims, particularly recent migrants. I think his comments on integration are really significant. We may want people from different cultures to just fit in to our society and live by our beliefs and values, but if they don't want to do this, where does that leave us? We increasingly look like a sectarian, divided, socially isolated society, resentful and suspicious of each other. The government needs to do a major piece of work on culture, religion and immigration. Well, thank you for that, Mary. Lots of other tweets as well. Let me read a couple of those from people who've been sending those in. My phone is not behaving itself when it comes to tweets. I will see if I can find them here. Oh yes, here's Les, who says, the thing about warm houses, I dispute the way modern houses are built. Wooden frame lined with insulation and a cheap facade of brick or concrete, hopeless. Whereas the way houses were built in 1805 with 2 feet 6-inch thick stone walls taken from a 10th century ruined castle over our back garden topped with Bangor blue slates, warm in winter, cool in summer. But then again, not many folk get to live inside a ruined castle from the Reformation. That's a whole different debate. Stevie says the Muslim call to prayer. There was an imam on Talk earlier today saying there's no need for the amplified sound of the call, and for centuries, of course, it couldn't be. He said there's nothing in their holy writing that says they must try to impose their ways on another society. And actually, the clip of that I have put out on my Twitter at Peter Cardwell. That was an interview with Julia Hartley-Brewer a little bit earlier on today. We'll be doing an interview with another figure who has some very interesting views on that in just a second. Jim has responded to what Ebbs was saying about half an hour ago. Ebbs, who was on the debate desk. Jim says Ebbs is making the classic dangerous argument. If a lot of Muslims live in the area, they should be allowed the call to prayer 5 times daily, he says, ignoring what happens when Islam gets a foothold. Several countries attest to that folly. On Huw Edwards, Melanie's been in touch and says there's no excuse for paedophilia. The man should have been imprisoned. None of this suspended sentence rubbish. He should have been put in a cell. Peter Murrell got 5 years for theft, etc. And this paedophile is free. It's disgusting. Phil in Preston is on the line, 0344 499 1000, and has some thoughts on Huw Edwards and his Substack. Will you be reading it, Phil?
No, I won't. I'm just wondering why you're talking about it.
It's a news story.
It's not really, is it?
I mean, it is. I think
he ain't gonna. His sentence won't make any difference. He ain't gonna get sentenced again. So you're talking about him, and if you hadn't talked about him, nobody would have known what's going on.
Well, the thing is,
You
Phil,
know what I mean?
I know
You're just
exactly what
giving
you mean,
it-
Phil, but our job is to talk about things that are in the news. It's been a news story today. And do you just think we should just ignore him, even though he's put out comments publicly?
Well, it won't make any difference to him, will it? Whether you talk about it or not.
I don't think it'll make any difference to Huw Edwards particularly, because he has the confidence, the arrogance, many would say, to put his views out and to think that he can be rehabilitated in some way. Do you think he can ever be rehabilitated, Phil?
No, I don't. Well,
say that again, Phil. Sorry, we just lost the last bit of that. Oh, we're not.
In fact, I'll just change the subject. You know these people that come across in boats?
Yes.
Well, when they get halfway across, the French pick them up, and then our dumbats from this side of the water, border force, they go and collect them.
That's exactly right. It's not even the whole halfway across. So, Phil, when you hear from the Prime Minister, let me just ask a question. Phil, let me just ask a question. When you hear from the Prime Minister that he's done a good job on the small boats, what do you think?
Well, are you having a laugh or what?
Well, he certainly thinks he's done a good job. I think many people would beg to differ, including Phil and including me. Kerry as well, who says the only thing I noticed in Starmer's gaslighting migrant waffle is that his hair has gone completely white since last week. Fab show as always, says Kerry. Julian says prayer is good, whatever floats your boat. As for a call to prayer, you don't need a chap calling out from a tower. We've all got tech on our phones. And Mike in Lincoln has been back in touch just about that female police officer who was talking to the people who said it was a Muslim area. He says, yes, Peter, I did see the female police officer explaining to a group of Muslim men that where they live was not a Muslim area. However, compare and contrast, how often have we seen that compared to police backing down to forceful Islam? The first time I recall seeing it was in 2013 when Amjad Chowdhury barracked an officer for wearing a Help for Heroes wristband to the point the officer removed it. This type of thing, like the anti-Israel pro-terrorist marches every week, simply embolden people to push and push, and the police mostly direct their superiors to give and give. Do we know if the female officer was reprimanded or given guidance? We don't know actually what happened to that female officer, and I think that I would like to commend her. I think that she did a very, very good job, and she stated the law, and she stood up for the values of free speech, actually. Mike, very, very interesting points, and thanks for your extra messages there that are coming through. Whatever you think, whether you agree with Mike, whether you agree with Phil, whether you think we actually shouldn't be talking about Huw Edwards, please do let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. We're going to focus as well on the Venezuela death toll next. 188 people as of about an hour ago, more than 1,500 injured and 40,000 missing. It's a really dreadful event that has happened there. We're going to go live to Caracas in just a second and get the latest. Stay with us here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Benny in Belfast has been in touch and says your caller is right. The media are just driving traffic to the Huw Edwards Substack. Essentially, they're platforming him and giving a narcissistic pervert the oxygen of engagement and major publicity. Talk is different to the mainstream media. Be better, says Benny. Mark says multiculturalism is going to be the death of Britain. A considerable number of people want this because unless the old Britain dies, a new one can't be built. The trouble is the new Britain looks to be a hideous, crime-ridden and violent hellhole. Stephen says, I grew up in Balsall Heath in Birmingham. I moved out of the area in 1993. Every day there were calls to prayer 5 times a day, starting at 5 a.m, ringing an annoying one-tone bell. Now they do it by apps now, says Steve. Interesting, thank you. Dee in Chesterfield says, when I was in Belfast, I met Jeffrey Donaldson at a do at the Europa Hotel in the 1980s. This is the former leader of the Democratic Unionists in Northern Ireland, who has been convicted of 18 charges of paedophilia, including rape of a child. Dee says he was rather pompous, pious and patronising. This was in contrast to Enoch Powell, who I met at another event, who was gentlemanly, gracious and told me how much he loved his wife. Well, Dee, interesting one there actually, because Enoch Powell, of course, his election agent was Jeffrey Donaldson. I've met Jeffrey Donaldson dozens of times. I interviewed him as a journalist in Northern Ireland. I dealt with him when I was at the Northern Ireland office as a special advisor, and he duped so many people who were absolutely shocked that he could be doing those horrendous things behind closed doors. And it's right that he will be sentenced to a very long period in prison. On school closures, lots of people getting in touch about that. Mandy has this voice note.
I spoke to my friend this afternoon. She's 14, her daughter is, and my friends decided to keep her off school because it's too hot. I mean, I was rolling my eyes. This is ridiculous. It really is, because I know I'm getting on a bit. I'm 51, but my God, I was always made to go to school come rain, hail, sun, snow, and my mum and dad didn't have a car, and I walked it. I just think teens and everything are all pandered to. It's ridiculous.
Mandy, thanks very much for your message. Really appreciate that. Keep sending your voice notes in 0344 499 1000. You do it through WhatsApp. Now then, let's talk about Venezuela, because more than 40,000 people are reported missing. 1,500 have been injured. And as of a couple of minutes ago, the death toll was 188. This is a dreadful series of earthquakes, actually twin earthquakes, a warning of widespread disaster and a search for survivors. 2 shocks of 7+ magnitude on the Richter scale, just a few minutes apart. One quake was the biggest of the century. Venezuelans have been describing horrendous scenes. Let's speak to one of them now. Jesus Armas is a Caracas resident. Jesus, I'm terribly sorry to hear what has happened to your country. Can you just talk me through what it's been like for you in the last few hours?
So last night was really hard. So I was here at my home with my mom and my dad. My dad have cancer, so he can walk, and I live in an 18th floor. After the earthquake, the lights went out, so we didn't have energy, and because of the situation of my dad, we didn't have the option to leave the building. So everybody was in the streets trying to run for the possibility of the collapse of buildings. So, and last night I was without any connectivity, without any information for around 10 hours. And today I've been all around the city. I'm a political activist, so I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to help especially the security forces that I'm trying to find survivors. And I have seen things that are really a tragedy. Actually, I saw how 5 or 6 buildings here in my district have collapsed, and that represents more than 25 people dead, and a lot of people that are right now that can escape. I saw that all these security forces, the rescue teams are doing their best, but they don't have all the tools they need. They don't even have the minimum things like glove or I don't know, the minimum tools that you need.
It'll certainly take a while for some of the help to come as well, won't it? Because the UK itself, the International Search and Rescue Team, apparently standing ready, according to the Foreign Office. They say following the devastating earthquakes in Venezuela, the UK government is working to support a rapid humanitarian response, helping to address urgent needs on the ground. I just wonder, in those 10 hours, Jesus, when you didn't have connectivity, that must have been a scary time to not know the extent of what was going on, especially when you're so many floors up in your apartment.
Without any doubt. And the most scary thing was when I was able to connect and to receive information, because I saw that many friends were disappearing. Some of them are still disappearing. I saw that the main airport of Venezuela collapsed. I saw many different buildings in La Guaira and in other states of Venezuela collapse too. And right now, we are trying to organize the civil society all around the country. We are trying to receive donations, to give donations to the rescue team, water, food, tools, but it's not easy because there are still many different places, many different homes all around Caracas that doesn't have any connection, that doesn't have any energy, and they haven't been supported by the rescue team of the security forces. So right now, the security forces and the rescue team don't have the capacity to support all the necessities in the city, don't even in the country.
So you have friends that are still missing at the moment?
Yes. And there are hundreds of Venezuelans that are still missing in this moment.
That must be very difficult to deal with. What have you been doing? You've been going around helping people. What have you been doing? What have you been seeing?
So I've been trying to show to the world and show to the national media how the things are, especially in places like El Paraíso, San Bernardino, and other districts that have been really impacted by this earthquake. And at the same time, we're trying to organize a network of activists inside of Venezuela and outside of Venezuela to find donations of tools, food, water, and many different things that we need right now.
So when the international community says it will help, obviously help is on the way, but it sounds like a pretty desperate situation at the moment. You're talking to me now, so you clearly have some sort of connectivity, but what is life like on a day-to-day basis? Do you have water? Do you have food?
So in my district, we have water, we have food, but we are doing an effort to find, for example, a Starlink a connection for different places in the city that doesn't have any connectivity. And it's worse in, for example, in La Guaira, where the main airport is. In that place, people doesn't have energy and people don't have connectivity. And of course, the pipe water in many different places of the city and in many different states of the country are not working well. So the majority of the people of Caracas doesn't have access right now.
What would you like to say to the international community, to people who are maybe watching this in different countries? It may seem very far away, but they can see and they can hear what you've been going through. What would you like to say to them?
I want to say to them that the Venezuelan state, the Venezuelan government don't have the capacity to deal with this emergency. So we need all the international support that could be possible, especially in this country where we are almost in the middle of a humanitarian crisis, even before the earthquake. So we need your help.
What was it like when the earthquake hit itself? Did you know what was going on? It must have been a very scary experience to go through. How long did it last? Both of them?
It lasts around 15 seconds, but it was really, really hard. It was really, really scary. I was hugging with my mom. We were watching through the window, and just across our street, there's another big building of more than 20 floors, and this building was shaking, was moving from one side to another, and we hear all the screams of our neighbors. It was really, really scary.
Well, listen, we wish you well, and I hope that things get better very, very soon. It's clearly a very difficult situation to be in. But listen, thank you for telling us what's going on there. Jesus Armas there, a resident of Caracas and political activist who has been speaking to us about what is going on. There, I would imagine, be quite a lot of help on the way. And when it comes to the Foreign Office in this country, the UK's International Search and Rescue Team standing ready for deployment. to Venezuela, according to the Foreign Office. Following the devastating earthquakes in Venezuela, the Foreign Office says the UK government is working to support a rapid humanitarian response, helping to address the urgent needs on the ground. We're working closely with international partners to ensure a coordinated response, and our UK International Search and Rescue Team stands ready for deployment. All UK staff are safe and accounted for in Venezuela, they say, and no British nationals are understood to have been involved in the earthquakes. The number of Brits who are actually in Venezuela thought to be in the low hundreds. So good to hear from Huw Edwards there. Clearly the people there have been through absolute hell, and it will take a long time to rebuild and clear. Lots to discuss here in the UK as well. Many people getting in touch about the call to prayer. This is Denmark saying that the immigration minister in Denmark saying that they want to ban the call to prayer. That is something that perhaps this country should think about as well. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Grant in Leicestershire says the call to prayer has one purpose and one purpose only. It is a declaration of ownership. In essence, the message is this is an Islamic area and this is how we rid you of this. If you don't like it tough, it needs to be banned now. Ange says regarding the school closures up here in Scotland, it's the last few days of term and they're doing nothing but playing on phones and watching movies. So yes, I'm one of those irresponsible parents who's kept my kids at home so they can play outside or jump on the trampoline in the garage rather than to be glued to screens in a roasting classroom. Ange, I think you're doing exactly the right thing by the sound of things, and yes, I know what you mean. I know in Northern Ireland as well, I think Tuesday is the last day and it is that kind of end of term feel where not a huge amount is happening. So if your children can have a proper summer jumping on a trampoline or being in the garage or mucking about or just going outside safely, of course, in the sun, as I'm sure you're a responsible parent in that regard, Ange, but I totally endorse that and I think that's fair enough. And I often kind of wondered, I mean, I loved it when I was at school when we didn't do very much, but it was kind of boring as well. I just wanted to do something constructive, but that's probably because I'm just a bit of a nerd. Mick says this juvenile Labour government are acting like sixth form prefects. Manufactured MPs like Mike Tapp will do anything for attention, even after being disrespectful to his boss. They're going to tax us to the grave. I would like to know where they invest their savings. Well, that's a really interesting one, Mick, because we've had that developing story this evening that Mike Tapp, the immigration minister, has written a piece for the Times tomorrow where he appears to strongly disagree with his own government's policy and indeed his boss, the Home Secretary, who apparently didn't even know he was writing the article. And now we're in a position where his job is on the line for perhaps breaching the ministerial code and being outside of government policy. So perhaps another late resignation or sacking from Keir Starmer's government. We have asked Mike Tapp if he'll come on this evening. Unsurprisingly, he hasn't got back to us, but we're asking for a comment from him and indeed from the Home Office. Mark's been in touch and says, I'm nearly 70 with health complications, including COPD. This morning I went to do a job which involved drilling concrete and steel and unsheathed windows in the full sun. It made me sweat. It was very, very hot, but I survived as I knew I would. This country is rapidly being soaked in hysteria for reasons that are beyond my understanding. The difference between the attitude of adults 50 years ago and those today is incredible, says Mark. Cian in Cornwall says, with regard to the call to prayer and extreme Islam in the UK, it feels as if we are living through a real-life version of The Handmaid's Tale. Glyn says, we certainly should be talking about Huw Edwards, just to reiterate what a vile, disgusting piece of crap he is, and to tell the world that. Trevor says, I think it's time to forget Starmer. He's gone, hallelujah. Nobody knows what Burnham will bring, but we are shooting him down before he starts. I live in Manchester, and he's been good for this area, so give him a chance, and we can perhaps shoot him down when the time is right, says Trev in Middleton. And another person says, there's no such thing as a Muslim area in Britain, and anyone who thinks there is needs to be re-educated. Whatever your view, however you want to express your view, please let me know. Lots of time for calls, as we know, in the 9 o'clock hour as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, send me a WhatsApp text message, or give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. There's a big conference going on in London at the moment, the ARC conference is bringing together similar thinking people from right around the world, and two of them are Emirati thinkers. We'll speak to them in just a second. Rauda Al-Tanai and Abdul Kader Al-Manhali, who will be in the studio in just a second. They have been to Golders Green today, that area in London where that dreadful stabbing happened. We know, of course, that the ambulances were attacked in another anti-Semitic attack, and these two Emiratis have been there to Golders Green to talk to people in the Jewish community there and to offer their sympathies. The United Arab Emirates, somewhere in the Middle East, that certainly has some sympathy with Israel and what they're going through. We'll talk to them in just a second. Sorry, it was earlier this week actually. They visited Golders Green, but we'll talk to them about that visit and their views on anti-Semitism in the UK and radicalisation here as well. So much to discuss. I want to discuss it with you as well. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, big conference going on in London this week, the ARC conference, and quite a number of people have been there, including a number of Emirati political commentators, two of which join me now in the studio. It's lovely to have you in. Thank you to Rhoda Al-Tenaji, who is here, as is Abdul Kader Alman Hali. Lovely to see you. Just tell us about two things you've been doing, because there are many tensions in this country in regard to Muslims and Jews. There's a lot of anti-Semitic hatred and attacks. What you've been doing, part of your programme actually has been going to Golders Green. I know you were there on Monday speaking to the community, and going to the Nova exhibition, which I'm hopefully going to this weekend. I have three very good friends actually who've been there very recently. Can I ask you your reflections on those, how you felt in Golders Green, Rhoda?
Yeah, so my experience there was one of warmth and welcome. We went there to look into what happened and the attacks that happened in that neighborhood or that area, and we felt so deeply about this case and the rise of anti-Semitism in the West. It was only natural for us to visit and see and meet the community, and we spoke to the kids, and the kids were very welcoming and asking us very intelligent questions, which we really appreciated.
What did they ask you? What did they want to know from you?
Well, what do we do? Why are we here? Why are we so supportive?
Tell us that. Tell us the answer to that.
Yeah. So the answer to that is we're allies and we're friends with the Jewish community. We stand against anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitism in the West. and we feel that we should let them know that they do have friends on the other side.
And it's interesting, Abdul Kader, certainly, that I know you were at the Nova exhibition. I'm going hopefully this weekend as well. Tell me your reflections on that. That was about the, we remember the music festival on the 7th of October, where so many Israeli young people were murdered by Hamas terrorists.
No, thank you so much for having us. It was such a surreal experience watching all the individual accounts from what's happening there. We saw all the kind of objects they had in the festival. It was alarming. It was disgusting what I felt as well. So it was meant to do that, to give you that feeling of as if you were there. And I felt so horrible. And even when we spoke to one of the survivors, she gave us her story and what happened during the October 7th. Actually, she was one of the survivors. I kind of choked up a bit because, I mean, she was talking to her father at the same time. And me being a recent father as well, it gave me so much emotions. I would just imagine if this was my kid, I'd break the whole world up and just to get to my kid. So it was such a surreal experience, and it gives you kind of a glimpse of what they went through. And anyone who goes through that experience of Nova kind of experience, you understand what the Jewish people has gone through.
And you feel a greater understanding of that
oh, yeah,
today?
no, definitely, 100%. I mean, just from seeing that alone, from the clips, the videos of the Hamas terrorists saying what they're saying, and it was just disgusting. It really, really changed my point of view of things.
Tell us a bit about your country and its relationship with Israel and with the West. Particularly, I know the Muslim Brotherhood, a really dangerous organisation, is something that you have a great expertise in. Tell us about that.
Yes, so the Muslim Brotherhood is basically a transnational Sunni group, all right? It started in 1928 by a school teacher, by Hassan al-Banna, all right? So I don't want to go into deep history, but,
sure.
but I want to say
Tell us what they believe and what they do today.
Their core belief, Peter, is anti-West, anti-the United States, anti-UK, anti-freedom of speech, anti-Jewish, anti-Israeli. And by the way, when I said anti-Jewish, they're not anti-Israeli, they're anti-Jewish. That's the difference. That's the main difference. They hate both. They just want to get rid of both. This is their ideology from the beginning. How they kind of, their main tactic from the beginning, when they actually first started, was, this is the main tactic I keep telling everyone, they infiltrate the youth, so the universities. Of course, we've seen a lot of universities riot and stopping Jewish students going to classes.
Your own country has been worried about people from the United Arab Emirates coming to UK universities and being radicalised by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes,
I mean, that I think astonished quite a few people.
No, yeah, 100%. It's the UAE telling the UK that we don't want even our own kids to come to your prestigious universities.
Why does the UAE do it better? Why are they not infiltrated by this Islamism?
We banned them, we cut them from the root of our country, because they were in our country as well, but we banned them in 2014. We cut them from the beginning. I remember even growing up, I've seen a few of it as well when growing up. So they cut it from the root and they expelled everyone and they put the people in charge in jail, or put them in jail for sure, 100%.
Rhoda, your own country has come under attack from Iran as well. Tell us how things are there now. It doesn't seem to be nearly as bad, but clearly that brought in and presumably changed the relationship a little bit with Israel, which has been under strain recently.
Absolutely not. The relationship is doing fine and everything is good. Israel, during a rainy day, they were our allies and they were our partners and everything. So our relationship in that sense did not change. However, we have a common enemy, which is the Islamic regime in Iran. Things are quiet at the moment because of the MOU, I believe. But for now, we have lost trust. We don't trust a terroristic regime that has attacked us and attacked our neighbors. And based off that, we're a little wary of how long the MOU is going to hold up and what that deal entails.
Do you think Donald Trump has done a good job with that memorandum of understanding, or has he been duped, as some feel that is the case?
Yeah, I believe that he has been duped in the sense that you cannot deal with the terrorists. Our foreign minister, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, stated it clearly that we will not be blackmailed by terrorists, and I think that rhetoric should have been translated to the US and to Trump specifically.
What is your view?
My view, look, I've said this before as well in other videos as well. It's a step in the right direction, because the MOU in itself, look, it's a step in the right direction for peace, all right? It's the reopening of Strait of Hormuz. But I've also said Iran won't fall through with it. They've been known to always go back on the deal, no matter what it is. And we've seen it. As soon as the MOU kind of went out, they already reclosed the Strait of Hormuz right after. So they're not a trusted regime to actually go through with this. So the MOU was a step, but again, now it's 2 steps back every time. And I think the US needs to look into this, because, I mean, Iran will never stop, ever.
Do you think regime change is ever possible there?
Okay, I have my own opinion on that. I don't think regime change, because the IRGC has really set up roots in their institutions there in Iran. It will be very, very difficult to actually uproot them. Even if you do uproot them and basically maybe destroy everyone there, then there's a huge power vacuum that's going to be happening there. A lot of factions in Iran itself would probably battle out. A lot of new militias would keep coming up. That's my opinion. I think the best way to actually deal with Iran is cut them off completely in terms of economy, in terms of anything else. Really make them
a pariah state.
Make them pariah state. Make them have to accept our deals.
Okay, and do you think that's the right approach, Rhoda?
Yeah, I believe so. As long as there are proxies around the region that are funded by the Islamic regime in Iran, I believe that there is this MOU or these deals or these negotiations give them time to regroup, even if they've been severely hit.
I'm obviously not holding you responsible for the actions of your government, but I'm just interested how, when it came to those attacks, there were people filming the attacks in the United Arab Emirates, and they were actually, there was police action against them. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Can I go for it?
Yeah,
sure.
Sure.
It was based off safety. It was not based off criticism or pointing the fingers at someone specifically. It was mainly a safety reason. We do not want to give information to our terrorists that are attacking us directly. I mean, in the videos, you can see the skyscrapers. You can see a lot of details and information that could be extracted from the video. And based off that, they've been held accountable. And that's simply to protect the people in the UAE.
Do you feel free, Abdul Qadir, to, I mean, you're both political commentators, how free do you feel to express your opinions in the UAE?
You want to start, or should I?
Go for it.
You go first.
It depends on what's your freedom, what's your definition of freedom. Yes, to me, I am free to talk whatever I can, I want to. But I think...
So could you do what I am doing right now, which is look straight at the camera and say, I think the Prime Minister has done a really bad job today?
No, but that's the thing. I think that's the difference in our kind of societies. We trust our leadership to always look for our interests, no matter what.
Why is that?
It goes into history of how the UAE has started. I mean, you can see from the beginning of the leadership. I mean, how long has the UAE been in the world? 55 years, 54 years?
Okay,
look how big they are. Look how big they are. We could have...
And powerful and economically powerful.
Exactly.
So that unity is important. But many people will say, Rhoda, that actually freedom of speech is more important. Or freedom of the press is more important.
Sure, I wouldn't be here if I did not have that access.
but do you feel you have it?
Well, I do. I really do. I mean, I speak publicly online. I go on TV shows. I post on TikToks.
But there are certain things you can't really say, aren't there?
I've been saying my opinion all along.
And she gets attacked for it as well.
I get attacked for it by people in the West, not by people in the UAE.
That's interesting.
So, yeah.
And tell us a bit about why you've been here for this conference. What have you been addressing it, or just taking part, or what have you been doing?
No, I've just been here to network and get to know people, people's opinions, the diversity of opinions, getting to sit with people one-on-one. I think that is important to lead the future in that terms and aspects. And it would be nice if the Arabs and the Western part could take part into bringing peace into the world, while respecting each other's traditions and values. We believe in Western values and the traditions of values, which is why we're anti-Muslim Brotherhood in the West.
Thank you both very much indeed. Rhoda Al-Tanaji there and Abdul Qadir Al-Manhali. Tell us what you think of what they have said, and do give us a call on 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The Prime Minister thinks he's done a brilliant job on immigration in the last couple of years. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. He also says he has some advice for his successor, who will almost certainly be Andy Burnham. Also, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has given his view on Andy Burnham. We'll talk about that in just a second. Also, the cost of Burnham, the Reform UK party, says that 50 billion U-turn on Mahmoud's settlement would land British taxpayers with a 50 billion problem in real terms, according to analysis of that they have put together. We'll talk as well this hour on a number of other topics, such as Denmark planning to ban the Islamic call to prayer. The immigration minister there says it shouldn't sound like a suburb of Islamabad. What do you think of that? Huw Edwards as well has done a Substack. Plenty of people saying we shouldn't actually even be talking about it, giving him the oxygen of publicity. What do you think of that? 0344 499 1000. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV, follow me at Peter Cardwell. You can send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a WhatsApp voice message, less than a minute, please. We'll play those out. You can also give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss today, right through till 10 o'clock. You know by now we have a little bit more time in the 9 o'clock hour for a call, so if you do want to get your voice on the air, please do give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. Stay with us here on Talk. Just on our two guests who were there before the news from the UAE. Thank you to Elisa, who says, loving these two. The US has been absolutely duped on the Iran deal. I would have loved these two to have debated Corbyn. Very interesting thought on that, and great guest, says another texter. Simon says the Islamic religion has killed fewer English people in England than the Christian religion has, so thanks for that. It's a shame that nobody ever took the time to explain to our Islamic population that England has been butchered by religion since the 11th century. Mark says, I don't want to have to deal with the effects of multiculturalism. I want multiculturalism to die. In another 30 years, I want multiculturalism to be regarded as an insane idea of a suicidal people. That's a very strong view from Mark. What do you think? Is he right? 0344 499 1000. Loads to discuss politically today as well. We've been talking about Venezuela too. We've been talking about farmers being told to plant lentils rather than to farm cows. On the politics, Kevin Schofield from the Huffington Post is going to join us in just a second. But let's go through a couple of clips of what various political leaders have been saying today, including the Prime Minister, who thinks that he's done a good job on immigration. Here he is.
In the first 2 years of this government, made really important progress on immigration. And, you know, one of the tests of an outgoing Prime Minister is whether you leave the country in a better state than you found it. And I am leaving it in a better state. Immigration has long been a cause for concern. On lawful migration, which when we came in 2 years ago was nearly 1 million net migration, we got that down to about a fifth of that number. So a huge reduction, over 80% reduction. On the crossings across the channel, which so many people are concerned about, understandably, we brought those numbers down as well. So the steps we've taken are beginning to pay off. And at the same time, asylum hotels are closing.
He also talked about his very probable successor, Andy Burnham.
I am stepping down after 2 years, leaving the country in a better position than when I found it. I will do that with good grace, and I will do that making sure that there is an orderly transition, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to have foremost in my mind the sense of service and duty that has driven me as Prime Minister. I will continue to faithfully serve my country to make sure that any disruption is absolutely minimised. And that's why I'm taking steps now to ensure that that can be done in a sensible way.
Speaking of Andy Burnham, the President of the United States has been asked about him too.
A new Prime Minister will be installed in a matter of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. Would you want to be the first person on his list to visit London?
No, but I think we're probably of a different persuasion. He's very liberal. But, you know, I got along well with Starmer. I disagreed with Starmer. I said, you have two problems, immigration and energy. And crime, too, by the way. Crime. You have a terrible mayor of London, by the way. I don't want to cause any problems, but your mayor of London is grossly incompetent, a bad person, and a horrible representative for your country. You know that. That's why you're smiling and laughing.
Donald Trump there speaking to reporters in the Oval Office. Well, let's speak to Kevin Schofield, who's the political editor of HuffPost UK. Kevin, on immigration, first of all, you're very welcome to the programme. On immigration, does Keir Starmer leave the country in a better state than the one he found it in?
I think it depends how you define better. I mean, they came into power saying they would bring down both illegal and legal migration. The numbers certainly on legal migration have come down and come down quite considerably. The question then becomes who should really take responsibility for that, because a lot of this is as a result of rule changes brought in by the last government, actually, and Labour quite happily to take the credit. I think the other issue is one of communication. You know, the numbers actually are positive from the government's point of view. The numbers have come down, but they get no credit for it. If you ask the ordinary person in the street, they probably tell you that immigration is still going up. So the government has never really been able to get that message across that it is making some progress on this issue. Now, when it comes to illegal immigration, specifically the boats, again, it does look, the statistics suggest that year on year, the numbers have come down. But when you see days, sunny days, when you get 700 coming over in the one day, those are the things that grab the headlines. So again, the government can't get its message across that overall numbers are coming down, but there will be occasions when large numbers, hundreds, will make that perilous journey. And I think that speaks to a big problem that Keir Starmer has had all along. He's never been able, basically, to sell a positive vision for what his government is doing.
And on the progress, if there has been progress, immigration, net migration is down. The question, I suppose, is that actually Keir Starmer's responsibility, or was it Rishi Sunak's responsibility in trying to deal with the Boris wave? So these things take time, and you look at the Oxford Migration Observatory, for example, that says no matter what Keir Starmer did, net migration was going to come down. We haven't had people coming from Ukraine in nearly the same numbers. We haven't had people coming from Hong Kong in nearly the same numbers. The atmosphere has changed, the rules have changed, and the numbers have changed, but that may be almost nothing to do with Keir Starmer.
Yep, exactly. I mean, James Cleverly, I think, was the Home Secretary when he really got to grips with the issue, brought in much tougher visa rules, for instance, which really have impacted the net migration numbers. And yeah, I think there's no doubt at all that I think the Labour government has ridden on the coattails when it comes to immigration of, largely anyway, of what the Conservatives did. Now, obviously, they're in power now, so they get the credit, and they're certainly keen to claim the credit. I've seen James Cleverly on numerous occasions trying to say, hang on a minute, it's not you guys, it's me that did this. But, you know, he's in opposition now, and people really aren't listening. So, yeah, Keir Starmer, I think, does, on the whole, have a reasonably positive story to tell on immigration, but the problem is it's never got through to the public.
Speaking of immigration, there's quite a controversy this evening. Mike Tapp, who is the immigration minister, is expected to be sacked. He wrote an unauthorised article for the Times newspaper calling for foreign care workers to be exempt from Shabana Mahmood's hardline immigration reforms. Just talk us through this, Huw.
Yes, so this emanates from Mike Tapp wrote an article for the Times in which he said that he didn't believe that foreign care workers should come under these new tough immigration rules, as you just said there, Peter. The problem is that was not signed off by his boss, the Home Secretary. It was quite extraordinary, really, for a junior minister to freelance in this way. You know, normally, as you know, these types of articles never see the light of day unless they've gone through multiple checks.
Well, I mean, if I was a special advisor in the Home Office, and if a junior minister wanted to write an article, first of all, the media special advisor would have to sign it off. Then it would go to the media special advisor. It would be written by the civil servants, and he would finesse it. Then the media special advisor would go through it. Then the Home Secretary. Then Number 10 press office would go through it and make sure they were happy with it. So why is he freelancing? What on earth is going on here? Freelancing is no pun intended.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. So, obviously, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, took a rather dim view of his behaviour and has demanded that the Prime Minister sack Mike Tapp. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. You go to number 10 and ask, well, has Mike Tapp been sacked? And they say, no, he's still a minister. So you've got a junior minister defying his boss and defying number 10 really as well, but defying his boss. His boss demands that he's sacked and the Prime Minister doesn't sack him. Now, this may be for two reasons. One, Shabana Mahmood, we know, has told Keir Starmer that he needs to go on more than one occasion. And also Mike Tapp is a loyal supporter of Keir Starmer. So this may well be a little bit of revenge as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. He's not got many days left in the job. This is an opportunity for him to, I guess, stick two fingers up at Shabana Mahmood for telling him...
Kevin, sorry, that can't be right, because he's only motivated by public service to the country he loves. There's another story on immigration, actually, this evening. Reform UK have put out a press release, which has just been, the embargo has been lifted in the last few minutes, about the cost of Burnham. They're saying a 50 billion U-turn on Mahmood's settlement that would land taxpayers with a big bill, £1,800 per household. Tell us about this.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one thing this shows you actually how Reform are worried about Andy Burnham becoming Prime Minister. You know, he's not going to be the pushover, I think, as far as those northern constituencies that Keir Starmer was. We saw that in Makerfield, of course. But yeah, there's been a suggestion from Team Burnham that they would water down some of these tough new immigration rules on settlement in the UK. Reform understandably have leapt on this, got the calculator out and worked out exactly how much that would cost in extra payouts to immigrants and asylum seekers, and have in time-honoured fashion divided it by the population to say this is how much it will cost you personally. So it's decent hit by Reform. We'll wait to see. Now, this climb down and this watering down of the policy, that hasn't been confirmed by Andy Burnham, because we really, it's one of the many areas that we don't really know what Andy Burnham's policies are.
Well, exactly. And I just wonder what you think more broadly this kind of says, because we haven't got a clear view on that policy. We don't know what Andy Burnham is going to do. We'll talk more about him in a second. You've got a minister loyal to Starmer who's come out and taken quite a lot of brickbats in defending Starmer not being sacked. You've got a Home Secretary who can't do what she wants to do. You've got a Prime Minister who has no authority. I mean, we're just in a zombie government, really, Kevin, aren't we?
Oh, 100%, Peter. You're absolutely right. I mean, he's Prime Minister in name only. You know what I mean? We saw that clip from him earlier, but, you know, it doesn't really make news anymore because everyone knows that he's going to be out the door in about 3 weeks' time. So, and until then, it's all about jockeying for position. You've got people like Rachel Reeves desperately trying to hang on to her job as Chancellor. You've got jockeying to replace her. Wes Streeting's been mentioned. Shabana Mahmood's another person that's been mentioned potentially as a Chancellor in a Burnham government. Ed Miliband, of course, as well, we know is a very close ally of Andy Burnham. So right now, all they're really caring about, rather than actually running the country, they're more worried about...
It's the speculation, isn't it? I mean, I got... There's a sort of nerds charter, or there's actually a game you can do of different cabinet ministers. I'm sure you've got it on your WhatsApp as well. It's been sent round asking people to guess who these people are going to be. But it is a guessing game to a degree, isn't it, Kevin? Because we don't know what Andy Burnham really believes or what he'll do. You've got all these different people who are being talked about as Chancellor. It isn't clear what his economic policy is going to be. He's talked about the fiscal rules and how he wants to essentially stick to them. But, I mean, if you're talking about Wes Streeting or John Healey or Shabana Mahmood or Ed Miliband, for goodness sake, being Chancellor of the Exchequer, that is not a prospective Prime Minister who knows clearly what his economic policy is going to be, is it?
No, it's not. And I think that's one of the reasons why Andy Burnham would have preferred Keir Starmer to say he was going to stand down in September. That was the ideal scenario for Andy Burnham. That would have given him 3 months to basically decide who's going to fill the big jobs, what his policies are going to be, what his vision for the country is. Whereas now, after being away from Westminster for 9 years, running Greater Manchester, all of a sudden, within a month of becoming an MP again, he's suddenly going to become Prime Minister. Now, obviously, he wants to be Prime Minister. I just don't think he wanted it in such a speedy timetable, and we see why now, because he's got so many big decisions to make in a terribly short space of time.
It's interesting, some of the polling around this. Obviously, it's hard to know exactly what the public thinks on Andy Burnham because he hasn't really done very much yet. But when you look at what YouGov has this evening, which of the following do you think would make the best Prime Minister? Andy Burnham versus Nigel Farage. Burnham 43, Farage 23. Burnham versus Badenoch, roughly equal, actually. Burnham 32, Badenoch 28. Zach Polanski, a lot more people like Zach Polanski than Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham 38, Zach Polanski 11. Similar numbers when it comes to Burnham versus Davey, Davey 32 to 11. But Nigel Farage is not going to look at that with any great level of joy, nor is Reform UK. They're ahead in the polls generally, of course. They're sitting around 25%. But on personal ratings, Andy Burnham much higher than Nigel Farage.
Yep, exactly. And, much better ratings than Keir Starmer has got with Nigel Farage. And so understandably can see why, on the back of the Makerfield result as well, why Reform are... and Nigel Farage has admitted it himself that there's no doubt that Andy Burnham will be a tougher proposition than Keir Starmer ever was. It's early days yet, of course. Andy Burnham hasn't even started yet as Prime Minister. He's not made lots of unpopular decisions, as he inevitably will have to, which will affect his popularity. So that, I suppose, that is a measure of comfort for Nigel Farage. But there's no doubt at all that, with 3 years probably till the next general election, the game is on now. I think before, Keir Starmer just couldn't really get back into the game. Yeah. Andy Burnham in charge, regardless of what you think of him, I think at least gets Labour a hearing.
Well, I think there'll be a Burnham bounce, certainly, but I also think they'll then realise that he's a bit of an empty vessel. But Kemi Badenoch yesterday saying he's just eyelashes on a T-shirt. He responded to that quite funnily, I thought, with a short video. Kevin, just before you go, just on what Trump was saying there on Andy Burnham, he doesn't seem to be any more in favour or holding out the hand of friendship to Andy Burnham than he was to Keir Starmer, who repeatedly, as recently as yesterday, says is no Churchill when he's referring to Starmer.
Yeah, exactly. The days of Starmer being called the Trump whisperer and them having, chummy little chats in the Oval Office, they're a distant memory now. Trump will be glad to see the back of Keir Starmer, and it doesn't look as though he's going to look any more favourably on Andy Burnham. He was very dismissive, described him as the mayor of a town, and said he's very liberal, which is a dirty word as far as Donald Trump is concerned. So I think Andy Burnham's going to have his work cut out to try and establish some sort of rapport with Donald Trump. They're obviously from very different political outlooks, but as we know, America and Britain do need to have a relationship, regardless of who's in the Oval Office and who's in number 10. They do have to try and rub along some way, and it'll be fascinating to see what type of approach Andy Burnham takes when it comes to Donald Trump.
Kevin, no doubt we'll get your expert view on that when it happens. Kevin Schofield there, he's the political editor of HuffPost. Thank you for that. Leslie says, does Starmer really believe the bull he keeps spouting? He's left the country in a better place, really? Dave says, you do realise that any illegal immigrant giving a passport is then taken off the illegal immigration data, says Dave from New Zealand. Dave uses this as his breakfast show, which is very kind with the time difference, of course, in New Zealand. Clayton in Dartford says, I often wonder what countries Starmer loves and serves. I suspect it is China. And Alex in Cardiff says, always lovely to see practitioners of the Islamic religion who aren't radical. Speaking about my guests who were there a bit earlier on, Allah translates to love, and Muslims that believe in correct interpretation of the Quran can be good British citizens. It's such a minority and should be recognised that most followers of Islam don't follow radical Islam. Quite a number of tweets as well, and thanks to everybody who has tweeted me at talkTV or Peter Cardwell. Elle said, really enjoyed hearing from those two guests a little bit earlier on. I sincerely hope the Muslim Brotherhood will be banned soon in the UK. Thank you for standing up for Jews and Israel. Natalia says the Islamic call to prayer can be disruptive and intimidating, although here in Jaffa there's certainly no place for it in Europe, she says. Les says, regarding Mr Starmer, Keir, please just go. I'm not a harsh man in life, but your actions on media and out of number 10 are akin to having a tooth pulled out without anaesthetic. The truth is you failed on energy, net zero, bunkum, illegal immigration, crime, multicultural hogwash, the Chagos Islands, pensioners freezing, farmers committing suicide, rape inquiries et al. Much more. You created a rift with our American friends. You are the worst Prime Minister in almost 62 years I have had on this mortal coil. Just go, old sport, says Les. Lots more to discuss. We'll take your calls, text, tweets and voice notes next on the show. Be sure to give me a ring. Get your voice on the air between now and 10 o'clock when Ash and Andre take over. 0344 499 1000.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just want to say a very happy 60th birthday to Gary, who lives in Higham in Kent. Gary is a very loyal viewer and listener to this programme. I actually met him a few months ago at an event to commemorate the 7th of October. And Gary, it was a pleasure to meet you. I know you're very, very loyal to the programme. In fact, you've been a bit of an evangelist and brought others to the programme. And thank you for doing so. I want to wish you a very happy 60th birthday. And thank you for your loyalty. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call for whatever your view is. Nigel is in London and is our next caller. Nigel, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, good evening, Peter. First, I'd like to say thank you for your support for the Jewish community.
Oh, thank you.
It's very much welcomed by many a folk, non-Jewish as well, so thank you for that.
Well, that's very kind, thank you. And I know that actually Gary, who was just wishing birthday to, he's not Jewish, but has stood by Jewish people through thick and thin. And I just think it's the great moral question of our age, really, Nigel, and I know what my side of the anti-Semitism argument is.
Of course.
What else is on your mind, Nigel?
Well, I rang you about keeping cool in this wonderfully warm, lovely weather that we're having.
You're enjoying it, are you?
Oh, I'm loving it. I mean, I really am enjoying it every day. And I'm going to give you some of my tips. Of course, many know anyway. Obviously, have as many cool showers as you can. Keep hydrated. But I tell you little two things. I wear a vest every day under a shirt.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to have a bit of perspiration, which people do,
you don't want the circles of shame.
Exactly, all over your body. Yeah. So it stops the shirt sticking to your body. It stops those circles, and it's just much more comfortable. The other thing I have, which you're going to be aghast at, I go for a sauna.
You go for a sauna in this weather? Flippin' heck, okay.
3 or 4 days a week. It's wonderful because I'm at the gym, I have a workout. I was at the gym, I listened to the second part of your show from last night on my earpods and enjoying that as I was working out. But then I have a sauna and a steam and gets rid of all the toxins, a lovely cool shower, and I'm quite refreshed by it. I know people must think, that man's a madman.
No, that sounds a good idea. Do you ever get into any interesting conversations when you're in the sauna?
Well, Peter, I'm going to tell you something now. Well, I'll say it for another day, but yes, we do have some wonderful conversations. We have a wonderful different types of demographics at the gym, all sorts of people. It's very spirited, it's very interesting, and we make lots of friends, and it's a nice place to be. I mean, for the half an hour or so I'm in there, maybe a bit longer, and it's really good. But the other thing as well about the warm weather, which a lot of people haven't discussed, the cost to businesses who can't operate in these conditions. I mean, Sadiq Khan was saying, "Oh, how bad it is for bus drivers." Well, Sadiq Khan, why don't you get your buses built with air conditioning in? Why don't you get your tube trains to have air conditioning in? But businesses across the country, because...
Do you know what it is? Not to be too London-centric, Nigel, but I know you're from London. Sure. The problem is that some of the trains and buses right across the country, of course, but the ones I use the tube trains every day to get here. Some of them, and this will be the same right throughout the country, some of them have air conditioning, some of them don't. We heard from someone earlier on in the programme who's on a train was on a train from Dublin to Belfast, and the air conditioning broke down as well.
Yeah, that's right. The gentleman who, I can't remember his
Ian,
He was saying that the train stopped for a little bit longer at the stations and the staff brought around water to passengers. But you know what? All over the country, businesses that cannot function, that cannot work, it's costing millions of pounds to the economy. I don't know why it is that successive governments, previous to this one's only been in power for 2 years, of course, but successive governments haven't over the years introduced a proper air conditioning regime across industry, across government buildings, across everywhere.
Well, once again, the private sector is picking that up. I mean, this building, for example, Talk Towers is a huge building, lots of different media outlets and so on in here, and we have air conditioning, and it's brilliant. It's really, really good. I used to live in Washington, lived there for about 6 months, and New York, I lived there for a year. And basically every building, sort of as standard, has air conditioning because of the heat. And actually, you know, New York and Washington, where it gets very, very cold in the wintertime as well, they deal with far more extreme heats than we do, and extreme cold as we do. Nigel, listen, really interesting to talk to you, and thank you for those tips and those ideas and your kind words, as well as Nigel in London there. Heather is in Manchester and wants to talk about the call to prayer. Heather, I understand it's perhaps the first time we've spoken anyway, and thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to mention as well, like, anti-Semitism and how I'm so disappointed in people. As a Muslim with Jewish heritage, like, I find it very vile, to be honest. And yeah, like, I think that Muslims, Jews and Christians should all have a call to prayer, like, more often. I think, like, the youth need to get out of the clubs, and it's very toxic, like all the drinking and all the drugs. So I'm for it. Like, I'm for religion. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it keeps people, you know, guarded, and it keeps people good. And it gives them like a notion for the future as well. Like,
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that, Heather. So you're Muslim but with Jewish heritage, is that right?
Yeah.
And would you credit your religion with keeping you on the straight and narrow?
100%.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned those couple of things like, you know, drinking and drugs and things. I mean, I'm not religious at all. I'm agnostic, and I actually don't drink at all. I've never taken drugs apart from twice in university where I sampled marijuana and it had a very limited effect on me on 2 occasions over 20 years ago. I don't think I could be called a drug user. So Heather, there is a moral path that you can go without religion, is there not?
There is, 100% is. But I feel like just going to church every Sunday, it grounds you. You know, going to mosque every other day or day.
That may well be the case, Heather, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with you, but the call to prayer itself, is that needed? Surely that's something that is going to put a lot of people off religion rather than necessarily bring them to it?
No, I feel like it's a reminder. Like, I love, like, being reminded, because I think as humans, you can get very, you know, distracted. There's so much going on. There's social media, like TikTok.
I mean, Heather, you may want to be reminded, but the vast majority of people in this country who aren't Muslim and wouldn't be called to prayer, they may find it something that they don't want, and many of our viewers and listeners have worries about what they call, you know, Muslim domination, or to put out a view, or to try to or influence the society in a way that they're not happy with.
Well, I'd look at, like, what does Islam stand for? Islam is just, I'd say, just an offshoot of Christianity and Judaism anyways. So
do you really think so?
Yes, I would probably say so, because it has all the same characters in there, you know. Solomon.
I mean, they're very different views when it comes to what should be done, and there's a lot of Islamic law that a lot of people wouldn't be too happy in this country about, many of them, if it was implemented to the nth degree, which some people feel it should be.
Well, I'm not sure about that. To be honest, I wouldn't say that as a Muslim, I'm still learning. So from what I've seen, I've not seen anything that really contradicts other Abrahamic religions. They are Abrahamic religions. They're all from the same.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I suppose the question, I'm not asking you to speak on behalf of your entire community. I would never do that, Heather. But I mean, when you feel about loyalty, when you feel about what grounds you and what sort of morally tells you what to do in your life, do you look more to British values or do you look more to Islamic values?
Well, I'd say it's both, because I think British values is like a lot of Christian values, which I respect. Like, I went to a church of school. I know the whole prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah, you don't need to recite the whole thing, Heather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I'm well-versed in the Bible as well. I've read the Bible.
Oh, I think we just lost Heather there. But listen, thank you for your call, Heather. Really appreciate it. Very interesting to hear from you. And we will be talking more about this with the founder of Faith Matters. This is Denmark considering a call on banning the call to prayer. And Fayez Mughal will be with us in a second. He is with the Danes on this, or certainly with the Danish immigration minister. We'll come to that in a second, but let's talk a little bit just for a second about the World Cup, because it's not just here in Britain things are heating up. It has kicked off, of course, the World Cup in Canada, Mexico and the United States. Here at Talk, we're celebrating the summer of football in style. How do you fancy getting your hands on a massive £26,000 of tax-free cash? £26,000 that could potentially land in your pocket with a few clicks of a finger. Whether you want to clear the bills, book a luxury holiday, or just live better this summer, it's a truly life-changing amount of money. If your bank balance could use an upgrade, here's everything you need to know.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thanks to Tony. He's been in touch. He sent me a WhatsApp on 0344 499 1000. He's from Warrington and he says, I've just returned from Marrakesh. The call to prayer was a beautiful thing to hear and the culture was interesting to observe. However, This is not appropriate in the UK. This is not our culture. I find it unsettling, intrusive and mildly offensive. I do not want a minority in the UK culture forced upon us. Practice your culture, but keep it to yourselves, says Tony. Well, Fayez Mughal is with us. He's the founder of Faith Matters. Fayez, you're very welcome to the programme. This is Denmark planning to ban the Islamic call to prayer. The country's immigration minister claims part of the nation risks sounding like a suburb of Islamabad. Morten Bodskov said that the government would reopen an investigation into whether the Muslim call to prayer can be outlawed nationwide, arguing that what he described as creeping Islamisation was taking up too much public space. What do you make of this, Fayez?
Well, let me start off by saying I'm never in favour of using bans around belief issues. However, and there's a however, because this is a complex issue, is I believe it should be left to decisions at local levels. And there's another however in my conversation with you, because actually, in all fairness, all Muslims, pretty much, if they want to pray, are aware of prayer times. They will be aware of the listed prayer times and the variations of prayer times. So if the argument is that actually we need a call to prayer to be aware of prayer, that doesn't make sense. And I am of the opinion, and so there's a complexity around this debate, but I'm of the opinion that actually people don't have to be wearing their religiosity consistently on their sleeves. As a Muslim, I believe that's the case, that actually Islam is very much focused on a spiritual sentiment. Now, that may be a minority view in Britain from the Islamic community, but the fact that Britain is not a Muslim majority country, as your previous caller in had suggested, and the fact that the call to prayer, whilst I believe is a beautiful thing, may cause disturbances around noise and other issues, actually, and the fact that Muslims know prayer times, I don't think it is necessary to have call to prayers across parts of our country. And so that's where I stand.
So there's a couple of points there. One is we had a texter earlier who said that people know when the time is to pray because you get it on a WhatsApp, and there are WhatsApp groups for people. Is it the same? Sorry, excuse my ignorance of the Islamic faith. Is it not just the same time every day?
No. It changes with the date, sunset and sundown
Okay, of course,
times.
yes.
And so, but people are well aware because, digital communications, your mobile phone will tell you when the times are. This is not 1900s. And so, they needed a call to prayer in the 7th and 8th century because we didn't have digital communications. Today we have digital communications. Everybody knows if they want to pray, we'll find the time for prayer. So the argument that actually we need a call to prayer to know the time to prayer doesn't stack up.
One thing you said a minute ago that I disagree with is that decisions can be made at local level. I think there needs to be a national decision on these things because you need to look at the country as a whole. Because one thing that really worries me, it's not just about Islamism, which is a real worry to me. The Islamic faith does not scare me. It does not, I don't think that people shouldn't be practicing it. I disagree with it on many levels, of course I do, but you have religious freedom as much as I have freedom not to be religious. That's fine. That's one of the great beauties of living in the UK. The issue for me is if you make it on a local level, you create places where there are different rules at different times or different traditions and customs. And look, there are areas, of course, which are predominantly Jewish, like Golders Green we were talking about earlier on in the programme. There are areas that are predominantly one faith or the other. That is always going to happen. But when you have customs and practices there that are acceptable or unacceptable, well then if anybody else goes into those areas, for example that policewoman who was pointing out to someone who said this is a Muslim area, that person can't say that, or that person can't wear that or do that, and similar, it would be exactly the same case with any other religion. That worries me.
In fact, I mean, and I think you have a really fair point here, right? I think you have a really fair point here. Actually, on the balance of probabilities, on the balance of where we are as a society, around social cohesion, around the fractures that are developing, quite deep fractures in parts of our country. I've worked over 25 years. I haven't seen such fractures before. The fact of the matter is I would err towards a national conversations where we don't have calls to prayer, because actually it is more divisive to allow that today than it is not. And actually, the first thing that'll happen is people who don't like Muslims or the far right or other groups will then say, oh, see, there's a creeping Islamization here. So this issue around call to prayer will not help social cohesion. And as I said before, on the balance of probabilities, where we are in our society today, people can find their calls to prayer on their mobile phones. So just like mass prayer and worship and calls to prayer, I'm of the opinion right now our country can't deserve to have those because we're in a very divided state of affairs.
Listen, thank you for your thoughts on that. Fayaz Mughal there, who's the founder of Faith Matters. This is on Denmark considering a ban on the call to prayer, the Muslim call to prayer. If you have a view on this, let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. We'll take calls right up to 10 o'clock. We'll have a quick word with Ash as well. Ash and Andre are here, of course, on the other side of the 10 o'clock news. But let me know your thoughts in the meantime. 17 minutes of the show left, and I'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
What they're ashamed of is the English flag. Scottish flag, fine. Welsh flag, fine. Irish, everything like that's marvellous. But no. We can't be English. And this has been going on for a long, long time.
He would be Prime Minister of the most toxic political brand in the country at the moment, which is Labour. And that is what we will be battling against.
Our Prime Minister is allegedly attacked by another nation and nothing is said.
This is a reminder that Russia regards the United Kingdom as a hostile power.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Karen has given me a ring from East Sussex. Karen, I believe is the first time we've spoken on air. 0344 499 1000. Thanks so much for your call. What would you like to say about the call to prayer?
Hi, yeah, it is the first time we've spoken.
Well,
lovely
nice to talk to you. Nice to talk to you.
Lovely evening. Yeah, no, what I'd like to say is it's interesting given that every election that's been fought has been fought on immigration in recent years. We've come out of Europe. The main predominant reason for that is because people felt immigration was a problem. So it stands to reason, or it should do, and this is appropriate for the common sense talkTV, that it stands to reason that if we don't want the boats coming, then we don't want the call to prayer. We don't want the Sharia law. We don't want the burqa. We don't want these things. If we don't want the boats coming, then that should stand to reason. And it feels that the British electorate is being willfully, disobeyed. We're giving you those signals, we're giving those orders, and yet we're being willfully disobeyed by those in power. And it feels that, a few selective people are deciding what's happening in this country, because what's actually happened and what's been happening over a period of time is that our culture. We're becoming a multicultural society. You're changing the framework and the fabric of Britain. That is almost a constitutional change. I mean, I lived in Scotland throughout the Scottish referendum, and in Scotland, people had to vote for a constitutional change. And to make the country multicultural, you're changing the fabric of it, and the British people have never been asked if they want to become a multicultural society. And what we've got now today is all the knock-on problems and effect of that, but we should have been asked. And we don't want the call to prayer. What we want is our Christian values, our Christian country. And it almost feels that we've got like a David and Goliath situation in order to have that back. And to me, it feels like, I think Nigel Farage has done a lot of important work, but it doesn't take 30 years when the right person appears, and I don't feel that we've got the right leader, that he's not come yet, that special person that wouldn't be scared, that'd stand up and say to the people of Britain, gird your loins, you are going to have a fight, and it isn't hate speech, it isn't hate to love your country and to want your country and to understand, because people have had to fight for these things in their own blood has been spilled, our ancestors, and because these things have come down to you as a privilege, you don't understand what they mean. And there's a few elite people at the top that have just wanted to give it away, and it isn't what we want, and we don't want the call to prayer. And I'm absolutely firm on that, and that there's a lot of people in this country and a lot of people that have been listening saying we don't want it, we don't want the boats, and we don't want to keep constantly being disobeyed. You know, we've got Andy Burnham now who's coming in because Keir Starmer's triumphantly failed, and yet he's talking about moving number 10 up to the north, doing as he likes. It's the do as you like brigade of people, and we don't want it. We want a snap general election is what we need.
I have only one question for you, Karen, after that. Where have you been? Where have you been, Karen? Great common sense. Brilliant common sense. I want you to ring me again. This is your first call. Please don't make it your last call, Karen. In the last 2 or 3 minutes there.
Absolutely not. It needs a special kind of person to come forward, a special kind of leader to emerge.
And do you think that's Nigel Farage? Do you think he can fix it?
I think that Nigel Farage has done really important work, and I admire him, and I'm not frightened to say that I'd vote for him. But I'll tell you what, if I had a platform, I'd do things. I've got courage.
I think Nigel might be interested in you, Karen. I think he might be interested in you being one of his candidates.
Real courage, and Karen, I know it doesn't take 30 years, because when the right person, the right David appears, he can defeat Goliath with a stone, and you don't want to believe that we can't do it.
Just one question.
And the people that tell us we can't do it, we can do it.
You have a lot of positivity. You have a lot of positivity, Karen.
Absolutely would.
Can I just ask you one more question before you go?
You absolutely can.
Can I just ask you one more question before you go, which is, does the thing about Farage, you've been very positive about him, you've been very positive about what you think he can do. Does the 5 million donation, does that bother you? Is that something that is in your head at all?
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me in the slightest bit. For a man who's had to go through what he's had to go through, he's got to walk into pubs. I know where he drinks in Down, and he has to walk into pubs with bodyguards and all the rest of it, and what he's trying to do and what the other corrupt people have done. They've been on a gravy train milking Britain for years, doing as they like, with absolutely nobody to hold them to account. And I tell you what, if I was there, it'd all stop. I'd have it stopped.
Karen,
I absolutely would. And people can laugh and think it's funny, but I absolutely
I am only impressed by your attitude, Karen. Let me tell you something. You give me a ring anytime, Karen, and I'm very interested in hearing your views on a lot of other things. So please do give me a shout on 0344 499 1000. First time caller. Fantastic. It basically didn't interrupt her there for about 4 or 5 minutes because she just had such common sense. That was Karen there in East Sussex. Let's go to Sheldon in Swansea. Sheldon, what do you think of the call to prayer?
Hello, Peter. The call to prayer issue, yes. Now, what's right, and don't take this the wrong way, Peter, I mean it sincerely. I respect your agnosticism. It's a very good position to hold. Very respectful. However, when it comes to the call to prayer, the Muslims are the minarets, the Christians, whether they're Anglican or whether they're Catholic, they have bells.
Yep.
And every time they hold a mass or they hold another form of service, and in my little village here, the bell goes 3 times a week. And they are calling they are calling Christians to prayer.
Yes.
It's exactly the same thing. So they are actually advertising their religion, and as the Muslims are advertising their religion to their faithful. So I don't see any antagonism in that at all. I've been in countries where I've heard the call to prayer, and I think it's an absolutely stunning thing to listen to. And I've been in countries where, especially in European countries, Southern European countries, and Northern European countries, where they do
but maybe they're Muslim countries, though. A lot of people pointing out that this is still, on paper at least, a Christian country.
Oh, I can see. I understand that position. I see where you're coming from, but the principle is exactly the same.
Okay. Very interesting point there. Listen, thank you to Sheldon in Swansea. Let's go to William, who is also in Swansea. Very Welsh section. William, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
I'd just like to ask your position on this. My understanding is that Parliament is supreme, and that the government cannot be can, if they wish, rescind any law that is on the statute.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
If this is the case, then it is possible, my understanding is, with a majority vote for the law regarding the ECH law to be lifted off the statute book.
That is absolutely possible.
And therefore, if this is the case, that there is no, we can, from that point of view, we can then stop the boats wherever we want to stop the boats, put the illegal migrants onto other boats and take them back to France.
Yes, we could withdraw. Well, it's really interesting you mentioned that, William. And yes, it is the policy of Reform UK. It is the policy of Restore Britain. It is the policy of the Conservative Party to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights. That's what they want to do. They could do that if they had a majority in Parliament. The reason it hasn't happened under Labour is because they don't want to do it. But you're absolutely right. That is possible. Now, the thing with some of that law is there will be case law. There will be bits of certain bits of laws that will remain because of legal precedent and so on. But essentially, the running to Strasbourg every 5 minutes because, you know, someone's kid wants to eat chicken nuggets, all of that would end, and it wouldn't be necessarily a panacea. It wouldn't solve every single problem, but we would be in, as those political parties believe, and I expect you do, a much better position.
Yeah, my understanding is the ECH Act cannot impose any punishments on the UK government.
Well, we've defied them before, William. I mean, David Cameron, the ECHR, said that prisoners should have the vote, for example, and David Cameron said, no, we're just not doing what the ECHR want, and, you know, the world continued to turn. William, we'll just have to leave it there because I want to bring in Grace in just a second after we read what Leslie says. He says, don't worry about the heat and the effect it's having. Starmer held a Cobra meeting to discuss the actions to deal with it, so all will be fine. Grace is on the line. Final caller of the evening before we have a quick chat with Ash. Grace, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I had a really great conversation with some Muslims a few years ago, and we talked about how we agree about things, including the fact that we believe that science indicates that there is a creator, and I don't think that the creator really needs for us to necessarily pray at very specific times, or if he does, he doesn't necessarily need for there to be this public call to prayer, which could potentially, I think, cause some frustration for other people in the community.
And it's really interesting you mentioned that, Grace, because the call to prayer is not in the Quran. It is not a tenet of them. It is simply a mechanism to say, come and pray. But if you can do that through WhatsApp or you can do that through a phone alert or whatever, as has been the case, well, then you could make religion a more private thing.
Yeah, and I think I mean, contrary to something that was said a moment ago, I don't think actually that people practicing Islam is in any way stopping us from practicing Christianity if we want to do that. So I don't think that people being Muslim in Britain is actually erasing Christianity in Britain. I think that people choose themselves not to follow Christianity. But if you want to turn to God, then you can pray when you want to.
Yeah.
You can do it in private. In fact, Jesus kind of said that it's better for people to pray in private when possible and not to do it in a way that seems to show off. And I would encourage you to try and pray. It can help people to feel better, even if they aren't quite sure what they believe yet. It can help people to feel better about life.
OK. Grace, thank you for that. Appreciate that. That's Grace in London. We heard from William there as well. Sorry if your call didn't get on the air. We have quite a few this evening. One person who's definitely going to be in the air on the other side of the 10 o'clock news, barring catastrophe, is Ash Gould.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
All right, man. I like church bells, you know what I mean? I mean, not if you live right next door, but I live about, 200 yards, and it's lovely when they're doing a little practice sessions or whatever it is, and you just hear it sort of in the wind, you know what I mean? The church. But that's a pleasant sound, isn't it?
Do you not think the call to prayer is a pleasant sound?
It's a mysterious sound. I remember I was once sitting in a jacuzzi on Mount Zion in Jerusalem, and about 4 in the morning, and suddenly one started off, and then the other one, and it was all echoing around the old city.
Hold on, we need to deconstruct
It's very mysterious.
Yes, well, as was your sitting in a jacuzzi at 4 o'clock in the morning on Mount Zion.
Well, what happened was I saw where the power button was, because officially guests weren't meant to be in the jacuzzi, but it was an outdoor one, and I found the power button. So I got a few of us, and we had this jacuzzi like 3 in the morning, and suddenly it all started off one over here, one over, and they have big speakers out in Jerusalem, and it bounces off all the walls, all the different ones. And it's very mysterious, but it's not like quaint like the the church bells, just in the air, blowing in the air.
Am I on LSD? I mean, there's
I wasn't. I mean, if I would have been, that would have been unbelievable. I don't think I could have handled it.
Sorry, it's not often in your broadcasting career, or indeed your life, where you have Ash describing being in a jacuzzi as the call to prayer is heard
on Mount Zion.
On Mount Zion.